Beneath the surface of our world lie stories that defy time itself. Ancient whispers carved in stone, buried in sand, or hidden beneath crumbling ruins. They speak of civilizations that rose and vanished without a trace, of monuments built with knowledge we can't explain, and of relics that seem to rewrite everything we think we know about human history. How were massive megaliths aligned so perfectly with the stars thousands of years before modern astronomy? Why do certain artifacts, found in places like Egypt, the deserts of Palestine, or the jungles of South America, seem centuries ahead of their time? And who or what inspired these ancient architects to build with such impossible precision? These are the questions that haunt archaeologists, historians, and dreamers alike. Because for every mystery solved, another emerges, darker, deeper, more perplexing than before. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world's most unexplained archaeological mysteries, secrets that time itself has tried and failed to bury. Beneath the warm sun of southern Spain, where the golden plains of Andalusia meet the slow, winding flow of the Guadalquivir River, lies a land once whispered about in the writings of the ancients, a land they called Tartessos. Its name alone evokes something lost, something half-remembered, a forgotten kingdom at the edge of the known world. For centuries, Tartessos was little more than a legend, an echo found in the works of Greek historians like Herodotus, who described a wealthy civilization beyond the Pillars of Hercules, ruled by a king named Argentonios, the Man of Silver. He spoke of immense riches, of cities gleaming with metal and adorned with treasures that dazzled foreign traders. Yet, for nearly 2,000 years, no one could say where this kingdom truly stood, or if it had ever existed at all. Then, in the early 20th century, something extraordinary surfaced. In 1958, near the small village of Aliseda in western Spain, farmers unearthed a collection of gold and silver artifacts unlike anything seen before. Necklaces, diadems, bracelets, and ornate vessels, all crafted with astonishing precision. Some were decorated with motifs that seemed unmistakably Eastern, almost Phoenician. Others bore patterns that hinted at local Iberian traditions. Together they told a story, one of wealth, artistry, and deep cultural exchange. This was the treasure of Tartessos, as it came to be known. For many, it was the first tangible proof that the mythical Tartessian civilization was not just legend, but history. Archaeologists soon identified other sites along the Guadalquivir Valley, Huelva, Cadiz, and the Doñana Marshes, where evidence of a thriving Bronze Age culture began to emerge. Pottery fragments, metal tools, and burial sites suggested an advanced society engaged in trade with distant lands, Carthage, Egypt, and the coastal cities of ancient Palestine. These connections were not accidental. Tartessos, it seemed, had been part of a vast Mediterranean network that stretched across continents and cultures. But who were the Tartessians? And what caused their sudden disappearance around the 6th century BC? Theories vary. Some scholars believe Tartessos fell victim to the shifting tides of commerce, its prosperity fading when trade routes changed or when rival powers, such as the Carthaginians, asserted dominance over the western Mediterranean. Others suggest a natural catastrophe, perhaps the silting of the Guadalquivir River, or even a cataclysmic flood that erased their cities from the map. Yet there are deeper, more elusive interpretations. Some researchers have drawn parallels between Tartessos and Plato's account of Atlantis. The timeline fits loosely, and the geographical clues, an advanced civilization, wealthy in metals, vanishing beneath the sea, resonate eerily with the philosopher's description. In the marshlands of Doñana, aerial surveys have even revealed strange circular formations beneath the surface, leading a few to wonder whether these could be the buried remains of that fabled island kingdom. Still, mainstream archaeology urges caution. The evidence, they argue, does not confirm such claims. And yet, it doesn't entirely rule them out either. Adding to the enigma, the artistic styles found in the Tartessos Treasure appear to merge influences from multiple worlds: Phoenician craftsmanship, Egyptian symbolism, and uniquely Iberian design. How did a culture on the far western edge of the Mediterranean achieve such synthesis? Were they simply skilled imitators of foreign artisans, or intermediaries of knowledge that flowed both ways, between East and West, past and future? Even the location of Tartessos itself remains a subject of debate. Some place it near present-day Huelva, others beneath the waters near Cadiz, or deep within the marshes where land and sea once shifted with every passing century. Excavations have brought clues, but no certainty, only fragments of a greater puzzle. Today, the artifacts of Tartessos rest in museums, glimmering beneath glass cases, mute witnesses to a world that once was. Each piece invites speculation. Each engraving, each curve of gold seems to whisper that we are still missing something vital. Perhaps Tartessos was not just a kingdom, but a convergence, a meeting point of civilizations, of knowledge and myth, a bridge between the tangible and the legendary. Or perhaps it was something far simpler, a culture whose story was swallowed by time, surviving only through the treasures left behind. As the Andalusian sun sets over the ancient river, the light glints off the distant waters, just as it might have thousands of years ago, reflecting from the golden walls of a city now lost. The question remains, was Tartessos a forgotten chapter of human history? Or merely a dream we keep trying to remember? As we leave behind the sun-drenched valleys of ancient Tartessos, our journey turns east, toward the cradle of civilization itself. Across deserts of shifting gold and beneath skies that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires, lies a land whose secrets seem endless. Egypt, a place where history and myth are woven so tightly together that even the sands struggle to tell them apart. Yet among its many wonders, the pyramids, the Sphinx, the great temples of Luxor and Karnak, there is one enigma that has all but vanished from sight, leaving behind only whispers and fragments of memory. It is said to have been a monument so vast, so intricate, that even the greatest ancient travelers doubted their own eyes. They called it the Labyrinth of Egypt. Described by the Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC, the labyrinth was said to stand near the ancient city of Crocodilopolis in the region of Hawara, just south of modern-day Cairo. According to his account, it was a sprawling complex of thousands of rooms, 12 vast courts surrounded by countless chambers, halls, and corridors, all connected in such a way that no visitor could find their way out without a guide. Herodotus claimed he had seen it himself, and that it surpassed even the pyramids. Later writers, including Strabo and Diodorus Siculus, confirmed the tale. They spoke of walls covered in hieroglyphs, of temples dedicated to the gods, and of the tombs of ancient kings buried deep within. Yet despite such vivid descriptions, the labyrinth's remains have never been conclusively found. In the 19th century, early explorers like Carl Lepsius and later the British archaeologist Flinders Petrie sought its location. Petrie excavated near Hawara in the 1880s, discovering fragments of stone foundations and the ruins of a vast mortuary complex belonging to the 12th dynasty pharaoh Amenemhat III. He concluded that the labyrinth had once stood there, its colossal halls dismantled over millennia, its stones repurposed by later builders. But not everyone agrees. Some argue that what Petrie found represented only a small portion of a much greater structure, perhaps the surface level of something buried far deeper. Ancient texts describe vast underground chambers, sealed long ago, where sacred knowledge and royal relics were hidden from time. Could the true labyrinth still lie beneath the sands, waiting to be uncovered? In 2008, a team of researchers using ground-penetrating radar reported detecting massive, unexplained structures beneath the Hawara site, rectangular patterns stretching hundreds of meters across. To some, this hinted that Petrie may have only scratched the surface of a much larger mystery. Yet access to further investigate these findings was never fully granted, and the data remains incomplete. If the labyrinth truly exists beneath Hawara, what purpose did it serve? Was it a temple, a necropolis, or something far more enigmatic, a repository of lost knowledge, perhaps even a symbolic map of the cosmos itself? Ancient Egyptian architecture often reflected a deep spiritual geometry, a harmony between earth and sky, between mortal life and eternity. The labyrinth, with its thousands of rooms, might have mirrored the Egyptian conception of the afterlife, a spiritual maze through which the soul must travel to reach rebirth. Others have suggested it represented the entire kingdom, a grand administrative center where the nomes or provinces of Egypt were brought together under one roof, a symbol of unity and divine order. Yet beyond these historical interpretations, there are whispers of something stranger. Some esoteric traditions claim the labyrinth concealed secret chambers where initiates underwent spiritual trials, echoes of a hidden priesthood safeguarding ancient wisdom passed down from a forgotten epoch. A few even link it to lost civilizations like Atlantis, suggesting the labyrinth was built upon knowledge inherited from an age before recorded history. While such ideas remain speculative, they underscore one enduring truth. The labyrinth has always stirred the imagination, calling to those who sense that beneath Egypt's deserts lies more than sand and stone, something unspoken, perhaps even forbidden. Even today, archaeologists continue to search. Satellite imagery and remote sensing have revealed anomalies, geometric shapes and buried structures, lurking beneath the surface near Hawara. Are these merely natural formations? Or could they be the final traces of that legendary maze, concealed beneath layers of time and silence? The ancient Egyptians believed that memory was a form of resurrection, that as long as a name or story was spoken, it could never truly die. And so the labyrinth endures, not in stone or mortar, but in the persistence of the mystery itself. If it once stood where Herodotus described, it would have been one of the greatest architectural feats of the ancient world, a monument to both human ambition and divine design. If it never existed, then its legend still reveals something profound about the human spirit, our unending drive to seek what lies beyond the known, to find meaning in the spaces where history fades into myth. Somewhere beneath the Egyptian sun, the sands still shift above Hawara's forgotten ruins, and one can't help but wonder, are they hiding the remains of the lost labyrinth or guarding a secret humanity was never meant to rediscover? From the shifting sands of Hawara and the elusive traces of Egypt's lost labyrinth, our path drifts northward, toward one of the most enigmatic sites of the ancient world. Here, on the vast necropolis of Saqqara, the silence feels alive. Beneath the watchful gaze of the step pyramid of Djoser, long corridors and shadowed chambers extend for miles beneath the desert floor. It is a place where time folds into itself, where the air carries the faint scent of dust and eternity. Saqqara has always been a realm of secrets. For millennia, it served as the burial ground for pharaohs, nobles, and sacred animals. Beneath its dunes lie temples, shafts, and catacombs, dedicated to gods and creatures that once embodied divine power. Among these, the Serapeum, a vast underground complex built to honor the sacred Apis bulls, remains one of Egypt's most mysterious sanctuaries. In 1850, The French archaeologist Auguste Mariette rediscovered it almost by accident, uncovering colossal stone sarcophagi sealed in pitch-black tunnels. Each coffin, carved from solid granite and weighing up to 70 tons, was designed to contain the mummified remains of an apis bull, animals revered as living manifestations of Ptah, the god of creation. But among these burials, Mariette stumbled upon something that defied explanation. In one chamber, deeper within the labyrinthine halls of the Serapeum, he found a massive sarcophagus unlike the others, its contents uncertain, its markings strange. When opened, it revealed not the familiar bones of a bull, but the fragmentary remains of a creature that no one could clearly identify. Ancient embalmers had taken great care in wrapping and preserving it, as if it too held divine importance. Yet its form didn't match any known species. Scholars have since debated what Mariette truly discovered. Some believe it was a hybrid animal, a symbolic fusion crafted to represent multiple gods at once. Others suggest it was a mistake, a misidentified apis, or perhaps a sacred burial for a different species, such as a lion or even a crocodile. But there are those who whisper that the so-called tomb of the unknown animal holds something far more perplexing. Radiographic studies of similar mummified remains from Saqqara have revealed curious anomalies. Creatures seemingly assembled from multiple animals, their skeletons arranged with deliberate precision. Were these ritual creations, sacred offerings intended to merge divine attributes into a single form? Or could they represent something else entirely, something the ancient Egyptians encountered but could not fully understand? The tomb itself offers few clues. Its inscriptions are minimal, its purpose unclear. Some fragments of text refer to the spirit of a great being, though whether this refers to a god, an animal, or something symbolic remains uncertain. In more recent years, Egyptologists have returned to Saqqara with advanced technology, ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and high-resolution imaging. New chambers have been uncovered, each revealing more mummified animals: falcons, cats, ibises, even jackals. It seems that in Saqqara, the line between the divine and the zoological was not easily drawn, and yet the unknown tomb stands apart. Its size, its craftsmanship, and its secrecy suggest it was meant for something extraordinary. Why would the priests of Ptah dedicate such effort and precision to the burial of a single creature, especially one whose species cannot be identified? Was it an offering to a forgotten god? A creature of myth made manifest? Or something that defies even those categories? Some fringe theories propose that the tomb commemorates a creature long extinct, or perhaps never native to Egypt at all. They point to cryptic carvings found nearby depicting forms that resemble neither bull nor crocodile, but something in between, as though the artisans themselves struggled to portray what they saw. Others interpret the find symbolically, as a ritual attempt to bridge the mortal world and the realm of the divine, a physical embodiment of transformation, preserved in flesh and linen. Still, the mystery endures. Despite decades of study, no one can say for certain what rests, or once rested, within that granite sarcophagus. The creature's bones, though analyzed, remain ambiguous. Its story, buried beneath centuries of sand and silence, refuses to be told, refuses to be above ground. The step pyramid still casts its long shadow over the desert, as it has for nearly 5,000 years. Below, in the cold tunnels of the Serapeum, the unknown animal sleeps on, its identity a secret known only to those who buried it. Perhaps the ancient priests intended it that way. Perhaps some mysteries were never meant to be fully understood. And as the echoes of our footsteps fade through the stone corridors of Saqqara, one question lingers in the air. What creature was so sacred, or so strange, that even time itself could not bear to reveal its name. From the shadowed tombs of Saqqara, our journey now carries us eastward, away from the sands of Egypt and into the lush, mist-covered highlands of Southeast Asia. Here in the quiet heart of Laos lies a landscape that feels otherworldly. The air is thick with stillness, the hills roll like waves of green, and scattered across the land are thousands of immense stone vessels, silent sentinels of a forgotten age. This is the Plain of Jars. Stretching across the Sheng Kawang Plateau, the site is unlike any other on Earth. Massive stone jars, some taller than a person, others small enough to cradle in one's arms, dot the countryside in clusters. There are hundreds of sites, with thousands of jars carved from solid rock, sandstone, granite, limestone, even volcanic tuff. Each stands alone, heavy, weathered, and empty. Some bear lids. Others are cracked and half buried, their openings pointing skyward like hollow eyes. Local legend tells of giants who once lived here, giants who brewed rice wine in these enormous vessels to celebrate a great victory. Another story speaks of an ancient king who ordered the jars made to store the remains of his fallen warriors, preserving them as eternal symbols of loyalty and loss. But beyond the folklore lies a deeper, more tangible mystery. Who made them, and why? Archaeological evidence suggests that the jars are at least 2,500 years old, dating back to the Iron Age. Yet no written records from that period survive in Laos to explain their purpose. Excavations in the 1930s by French archaeologist Madeleine Colani revealed that some jars contained traces of human bone and ashes, along with beads and pottery fragments. From this, she theorized that the Plain of Jars may have been an ancient burial site, a vast necropolis stretching across the mountains. It's a reasonable explanation, yet it doesn't answer everything. Many of the jars stand far from any known settlement. Some are placed in geometric patterns, others seemingly at random. Their orientation shows no clear alignment with stars, rivers, or trade routes, and their sheer number, estimated at over 2,000, suggests an effort of incredible scale. Why would an early culture invest such effort in carving and transporting these enormous vessels across difficult terrain? The materials add to the puzzle. Some jars were carved from stone not found anywhere nearby, meaning they were hauled, somehow, over great distances. How did Iron Age people with limited tools achieve such precision and uniformity? What purpose was so sacred, so vital, that it justified such monumental labor? Over the years, several theories have emerged. The most accepted is that the jars were used in funerary rituals, perhaps as temporary coffins where bodies were placed to decompose before the bones were later interred elsewhere. Yet others suggest a more practical function, storage for rainwater or food for travelers along ancient trade routes. And then, there are those who see something deeper. Some researchers note the jars' resemblance to megalithic structures found far across the world, from the dolmens of Europe to the stone circles of South Asia. Could the Plain of Jars have been part of a much older, interconnected tradition? An ancient language of stone shared by civilizations long forgotten? More speculative interpretations link the site to vanished cultures or even pre-cataclysmic societies, echoes of a world erased by time. In these theories, the jars become relics of a civilization that existed before known history, their purpose rooted not in death, but in knowledge. Some claim they were used in celestial observation, others that they marked points of geomagnetic power, though evidence for such ideas remains elusive. Adding to the intrigue, the Plain of Jars has long been shrouded not only by mystery, but by danger. During the 20th century, the region became heavily bombed, leaving much of it off-limits for decades. Thousands of unexploded ordnances still lie hidden beneath the soil, making archaeological exploration perilous and incomplete. Even today, many jar sites remain untouched, their secrets locked beneath layers of earth and war. When researchers return to the region, they find more questions than answers. Beneath the bases of the jars, stone discs are sometimes found, carved deliberately, often aligned in patterns that seem too intentional to be random. What do they signify? Markers of burial grounds, ceremonial offerings, or something else entirely? As the sun sets over the Laotian hills, the stone jars cast long shadows across the grass. They stand silently, indifferent to the passing centuries, to the wars and the weather and the stories told about them. Each jar is a vessel of stone and silence, perhaps once holding the remains of the dead, or perhaps something more abstract, memory, ritual, or faith itself. The Plain of Jars remains one of archaeology's quietest mysteries. Its creators left no words, no records, only these monumental clues. And as mist gathers once more over the high plateau, one can't help but wonder, what ancient hands carved these stones? And what message did they leave behind, waiting to be understood? From the windswept highlands of Laos and the silent plain of Jars, our journey turns once more toward the heart of the ancient world. This time, into the depths of Rome's artistic genius. Yet what awaits here is not a monument or a ruin, but something small enough to fit in a single hand. And yet, it carries a mystery as vast as any buried city. It is called the Lycurgus Cup, a work of art so refined, so inexplicably advanced, that even modern science struggled for decades to understand how it was made. Today, it rests within the British Museum, a Roman glass chalice from the 4th century AD, decorated with scenes of myth and punishment. It depicts the tragic tale of King Lycurgus of Thrace, a ruler who, in his defiance of the god Dionysus, was ensnared by vines and doomed to madness. The craftsmanship is exquisite. Delicate vines curling across the glass, figures frozen mid-motion, every detail seemingly alive. But what makes the cup truly extraordinary is not its form. It's what happens when light touches it. In ordinary light, the Lycurgus cup glows a soft, opaque green, rich and deep, like the color of ancient forests. Yet when illuminated from behind, it transforms, as if possessed by fire. The green vanishes, replaced by a glowing crimson red that seems to pulse with life. The change is instant, dramatic, and mesmerizing. For centuries, this phenomenon baffled historians and artisans alike. How could ancient Roman glassmakers have achieved such an effect? The technology required to produce color-changing glass seemed far beyond their known capabilities. It wasn't until the late 20th century that modern analysis finally revealed the secret. Using electron microscopy, scientists discovered that the Lycurgus cup was infused with tiny particles, nano-sized fragments of gold and silver, each only a few thousand atoms across. These metallic nanoparticles were deliberately mixed into the glass, altering how it interacts with light. When light passes through the material, the particles resonate at different wavelengths, creating the dramatic shift in color. In essence, the artisans of Rome had unknowingly, or perhaps knowingly, crafted a masterpiece of nanotechnology, 1,600 years before the concept of nanoscience even existed. But this revelation raises as many questions as it answers. How did Roman craftsmen achieve such microscopic precision? The process of embedding nanoparticles requires exact ratios and temperatures, conditions difficult even for modern laboratories. Was it truly an accident born of experimentation, or did they possess a deeper understanding of materials than we have long assumed? Some scholars believe the color-changing effect was discovered by chance, through the trial and error of master glassmakers working with metallic dust. Over time, their observations of color variations may have guided them toward perfection, an art passed down not by theory, but by tradition and touch. Yet others wonder if there was more at play. The Lycurgus cup is not the only ancient artifact that seems to hint at lost knowledge. Across the ancient world, we find examples of advanced material science, the tempered steel of Damascus blades, the self-healing cement of Roman concrete, the precision of Egyptian pigments that never fade. Could the Lycurgus cup be part of a larger legacy, a glimpse into a forgotten science of light and matter? Some speculative thinkers have gone further still, suggesting that ancient craftsmen may have inherited fragments of knowledge from even older civilizations, remnants of technologies long vanished, preserved only through craft traditions. While such ideas remain unproven, they speak to the deep enigma surrounding objects like the Lycurgus cup, artifacts that seem to bridge the line between art and impossible innovation. And then, there is the symbolism. Light itself, transformed, controlled, and captured in glass, was central to many ancient philosophies. In the myth of Lycurgus, the king's downfall comes through his struggle against divine order, the unseen power that binds the world. The cup that bears his name seems almost to embody that same paradox: human mastery over nature, achieved through means we still struggle to fully comprehend. Today, scientists continue to study the Lycurgus cup, not as a relic of myth, but as a guide to innovation. Its nanostructures have inspired research in modern optics, biosensors, and advanced materials. The past, it seems, still teaches the future. And yet, one question endures. Did those Roman artisans truly know what they had created? Or did they glimpse something accidental, a fleeting harmony of art and physics that we, centuries later, are only beginning to rediscover? Under the museum lights, the Lycurgus cup still shifts from green to red, its colors dancing with every movement of illumination. It is as if the glass remembers something long forgotten, knowledge once lost to time, now glowing softly in the dark, daring us to ask what else ancient hands once knew. From the glittering mystery of the Lycurgus cup and its ancient mastery of light, our path now descends, deep beneath the earth, into darkness. Far from the sunlight of Rome or the marble halls of civilization, another kind of ingenuity lies hidden, carved not in gold or glass, but in living stone. In the heart of central Turkey, beneath the soft, volcanic landscape of Cappadocia, a labyrinth extends into the ground, an underground city known as Derinkuyu. From above, the terrain appears calm and unassuming, rolling hills, scattered dwellings, and the faint imprint of history etched into the dusty plains. Yet below, an entire world sleeps in shadow, a network of tunnels, chambers, and passageways that stretch down farther than any visitor can truly comprehend. Discovered by chance in the 1960s, when a local man renovating his home broke through a wall and found a hidden passage beyond, Derinkuyu is one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. What began as a single tunnel soon revealed itself to be part of a vast subterranean complex, an ancient city buried beneath the earth, capable of housing as many as 20,000 people, along with their livestock, food stores, and supplies. Level after level descends into the rock, some nearly 300 feet deep. The air grows cooler, the light fainter. The walls, smooth and deliberate, bear no signs of panic or haste. Whoever built Derinkuyu worked with precision and purpose. Mainstream archaeology suggests that the city was first carved around the 8th or 7th century BC, possibly by the Phrygians or early Anatolian peoples, and later expanded by Christians seeking refuge from invasion and persecution. The tunnels were designed for survival. Ventilation shafts provided air circulation, stone doors, Circular slabs weighing hundreds of pounds could be rolled into place to seal off entrances, and hidden wells ensured access to fresh water, protected even under siege. It is a triumph of ancient engineering. And yet, questions linger. Questions that no amount of careful excavation has yet answered. Why build so vast, so deep? And more curiously, how? Even with modern tools, carving an underground complex of this magnitude would be an immense challenge. The volcanic rock of Cappadocia is soft enough to dig, but the scale, spanning multiple cities interconnected by kilometers of tunnels, suggests coordination on a level far beyond simple refuge building. Some archaeologists propose that these cities were expanded over centuries, each generation adding to what came before. But others point to the uniformity of design, the careful planning evident across multiple levels, and wonder if the entire structure may have been conceived as a whole from the very beginning. Recent surveys and ground-penetrating radar have revealed even deeper sections, levels still unexplored by archaeologists. Beneath the known city, there appear to be sealed corridors extending downward into unknown chambers. What lies beyond them, collapsed tunnels, hidden sanctuaries, or something entirely different, remains uncertain. In the folklore of the region, Derinkuyu is said to have been built not merely by humans, but by beings who came from below. Some ancient myths describe early peoples hiding underground to escape a great catastrophe that consumed the surface: fire, flood, or even cosmic disaster. Could Derinkuyu have been constructed as a refuge from something more than invasion? A shelter from the wrath of nature, or from something far older, long erased from history? While such stories belong to legend, they echo across cultures, from Sumerian texts that speak of subterranean gods to tales of hidden worlds beneath the earth. Even Plato's allegory of the cave, where light and shadow define perception, seems to mirror the mystery of Derinkuyu, a civilization that turned inward, downward, to find safety in the depths. Archaeologists continue to map the tunnels, tracing their endless corridors through layers of silence and time. Some chambers appear ceremonial, their smooth walls marked by carvings whose meanings are lost. Others resemble schools, kitchens, or wine cellars, signs of life continuing in darkness. Yet, beyond a certain depth, the tunnels narrow and twist into uncertainty. The lower levels remain sealed, not by human decision, but by collapse and age. Was Derinkuyu the product of human ingenuity alone, or a legacy of knowledge passed down from an age we no longer remember? As we stand at the threshold of its blackened corridors, the air still carrying the faint coolness of a world untouched by the sun, it's easy to feel the pull of the unknown. Down there, beneath the carved arches and empty halls, may rest a story that predates recorded history, a record not written on tablets or scrolls, but in the silent geometry of stone. And so the mystery endures. Beneath Cappadocia's rolling hills, the darkness of Derinkuyu waits, whispering a question that has yet to be answered. How deep does the story of humanity truly go? From the silent depths of Derinkuyu's underground world, our journey now rises once again to the open air, across the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, to a place where mystery takes shape in stone beneath the tropical sun. Here, on a remote island draped in mist and rainforest, enormous faces gaze out from the jungle, ancient, solemn, and seemingly eternal. This is Nuku Hiva, the largest of the Marquesas Islands in French Polynesia, a place of wild beauty and ancient secrets. Towering cliffs plunge into turquoise seas, and deep valleys cut through volcanic rock shrouded in green. Hidden among these valleys lie relics of a civilization that flourished long before European ships ever reached these shores. Massive carved stone figures known as tiki, the enigmatic guardians of the island's past. At first glance, they may seem familiar, cousins perhaps, to the colossal Moai statues of Easter Island. But the tiki of Nuku Hiva are different. They are not all aligned or arranged in rows. Instead, they appear scattered across sacred ceremonial sites called Moai, as though each was carved for a specific spirit, ancestor, or purpose. Some stand upright in clearings. Others lie half-buried in moss and roots, their weathered features emerging from the earth like memories of a forgotten age. The largest of these stone faces reach several meters high. Their expressions are bold yet strangely ambiguous. Wide eyes, flared nostrils, tightly closed lips. Some seem human, others more abstract or even otherworldly. Many are carved from solid volcanic basalt, polished smooth by hands that worked with astonishing precision. But who carved them, and what were they meant to represent? Archaeologists believe that these figures were created by the ancient Marquesan culture between 1200 and 1400 AD. In Polynesian tradition, tiki often represented deified ancestors, spirits who bridged the human and the divine. They were protectors, placed near temples or gathering sites to watch over the living. Yet some of Nuku Hiva's statues seem to go beyond that, larger, older, and stylistically distinct, suggesting layers of belief that may predate the Polynesian settlement as we know it. Radiocarbon dating and linguistic studies suggest that the Marquesas were among the first islands settled by Polynesian voyagers, possibly as early as the 15th century as the first millennium BC. These early navigators crossed thousands of miles of open ocean guided only by stars, wind, and instinct. But where did their artistic and spiritual traditions come from? Were the tiki of Nuku Hiva born solely from local imagination? Or do they echo something older, something shared across the ancient Pacific world? There are intriguing parallels. Across the vast ocean, from Easter Island to Hawaii, from Tonga to New Zealand, similar figures appear, carved in stone or wood, representing ancestors or gods, their forms echoing one another across immense distances. Could this continuity point to a single cultural origin, a deep memory carried by voyagers from island to island? Some researchers believe the answer lies in migration and shared mythology. Others suggest that the Marquesas, with their monumental carvings, represent one of the earliest centers of Polynesian stone art, a birthplace rather than a branch. But then there are the anomalies. Certain statues on Nuku Hiva appear far older than others, their surfaces eroded to near featurelessness. Some lie in isolated valleys, far from any known settlement. And local oral traditions speak of times when the land itself was shaped by giants, ancestors of immense strength who could move stone as easily as wood. While mythic in tone, such stories are not unique. Throughout the Pacific, tales of giant builders appear again and again. Are these simply metaphors for skill and labor, or distant memories of something else? In recent years, new surveys using LiDAR and drone imaging have revealed previously unknown sites, terraces, platforms, and hidden statues swallowed by the forest. Many remain untouched, their purpose unclear. Were they altars, dwellings, or markers aligned with the stars? The truth may lie somewhere between the spiritual and the practical, a reflection of a people whose understanding of the world wove both seamlessly together. Yet even now, as archaeologists map these forgotten places, the mystery of the stone faces endures. Their creators left no written record, no explanation, only the silent testimony of their work, massive eyes staring through centuries of mist and foliage. When the light fades over Nuku Hiva and the forest begins to breathe with the sounds of night, the faces seem to change. The shadows deepen in their carved sockets, their expressions shifting subtly, as though remembering. Perhaps they were meant to guard something. Perhaps they still do. And as the Pacific winds whisper through the valleys, one can't help but wonder, who were the people who shaped these colossal forms? And what knowledge vanished with them beneath the endless horizon of the sea? From the remote valleys of Nuku Hiva, where silent stone faces guard the mysteries of the Pacific, our journey now crosses to another continent, one cloaked in dense rainforest, ancient rivers, and a past written not on parchment, but in stone. Deep in northeastern Brazil, near the small city of Inga in the state of Paraíba, lies one of South America's most perplexing archaeological enigmas, the Inga stone, or Itacoatiara do Inga, a sprawling granite wall covered with thousands of intricate carvings, symbols, and inscriptions that no one has ever been able to fully decipher. The site stretches along the banks of the Inga River, where the sun beats down on the pale rock, revealing an elaborate mosaic of spirals, geometric forms, and abstract patterns that shimmer faintly in the light. Some figures resemble constellations, clusters of stars carved with uncanny precision. Others seem to depict animals, human-like figures, or objects that defy easy interpretation. The largest of these carvings span over 24 meters in length and stand nearly 3 meters tall, etched into the stone as though the artist, or artists, intended their message to endure forever. To this day, no one knows who carved the Inga stone, or why. Archaeologists generally agree that the engravings were made by an ancient indigenous culture long before European contact, perhaps thousands of years ago. Yet the true age of the site remains uncertain. Some estimates place it around 2,000 years old. Others suggest it could be far older, dating back to a prehistoric time when vast regions of Brazil were home to now lost civilizations. Unlike other rock art sites in South America, however, the Inga inscriptions appear unusually systematic, almost like a form of writing rather than simple decorative art. And that is where the mystery deepens. Researchers have noted that many of the symbols appear to repeat, forming sequences that might represent words, numbers, or celestial coordinates. Certain motifs resemble ancient scripts from entirely different parts of the world: Phoenician, Egyptian, even early Greek. Others have drawn comparisons to Sumerian cuneiform or the petroglyphs found in the Canary Islands. Could such similarities be coincidence, or could they point toward ancient transoceanic contact, long before recorded history acknowledges it? Mainstream archaeology remains cautious. Most experts suggest the markings are the work of local peoples expressing cosmological or religious ideas, perhaps related to the movement of stars or natural cycles like the flooding of the river. Some believe the carvings could be part of a vast ceremonial complex, an outdoor temple dedicated to celestial observation or seasonal rituals. Yet the precision and complexity of certain symbols challenge that simple explanation. A few seem to depict what look like planetary orbits, spirals that align with known star patterns, or abstract forms reminiscent of mathematical diagrams. Were these the records of ancient astronomers? Or could they represent something more symbolic, maps of the soul, the sky, or the earth itself? In the 20th century, explorers, linguists, and fringe theorists began proposing more radical ideas. Some suggested that the Inga stone could hold traces of contact with Old World sailors, Phoenicians or even Atlanteans, who may have crossed the Atlantic long before Columbus. Others speculated about connections to lost civilizations in the Amazon basin, whose remnants might still lie buried beneath centuries of jungle growth. And then there are the local legends. For generations, people living near the site have spoken of strange lights appearing over the stone on certain nights, glowing orbs that seem to move silently above the carvings. Some claim that when the river rises during heavy rain, the patterns on the rock shimmer beneath the water, as if the inscriptions come alive. Such tales may belong more to folklore than fact, but they add to the site's aura of timeless mystery, a place where the natural and supernatural seem to blur. Today, the Inga stone continues to attract scholars and visitors alike. Linguists attempt to decode its patterns. Archaeologists scan its surfaces with 3D imaging, and local guides tell stories of what might have been, a civilization advanced in ways we can only imagine. Yet for every new theory, another question emerges. If the carvings do represent a written language, where are the other examples of it? If they were meant to record astronomical data, what knowledge did these people possess, and where did it come from? Perhaps the answer lies still buried beneath the surrounding soil, waiting to be uncovered. Or perhaps, like so many of history's great mysteries, the Inga stone is meant to remain enigmatic, a silent witness to a forgotten chapter of human history. As the tropical sun sets over the Paraíba Valley, shadows deepen across the carved surface. The stone seems to breathe, its symbols glowing faintly under the fading light. And one can't help but wonder, was this a message meant for us? Left by a people who somehow knew their voices would one day fade, but their marks would endure? The Inga stone remains, unbroken and undeciphered, a message from the deep past, still waiting for someone to read. From the carved stones of Brazil's mysterious Inga Wall, our journey drifts once more across the ocean, eastward, through endless stretches of Pacific blue, to an island shrouded in mist and myth. Here, off the eastern shore of Pohnpei in Micronesia, lies a city unlike any other on Earth. A labyrinth of canals, basalt towers, and sunken courtyards rising from a coral reef, ancient, silent, and impossibly intricate. This is Nan Madol, often called the Venice of the Pacific, a name that fails to capture its otherworldly presence. At first glance, it seems almost unreal, a network of over 90 artificial islets connected by tidal waterways, constructed from thousands of massive basalt columns stacked with uncanny precision. Some of these stones weigh as much as 50 tons, their hexagonal forms fitted together like the pieces of an immense geometric puzzle. The structures form towering walls, platforms, and chambers, their dark stone glistening under the humid island air. Beneath the surface, coral foundations anchor the complex to the seabed, while dense mangroves whisper against the ruins as if guarding the secrets of a lost world. Archaeologists have long agreed that Nan Madol was once the ceremonial and political center of the Saudalur dynasty, which ruled Pohnpei from around 1100 to 1628 AD. According to oral tradition, it was built by two brothers, mystical beings named Olisipa and Olosopa, who arrived from the sea and used supernatural powers to lift the great stones into place. They are said to have established the first rulers of the island, who governed through divine right and mystery. But even with centuries of retelling, the legend holds a haunting consistency. The city was built not by ordinary means, but through a knowledge that has long since vanished. Modern science offers no definitive explanation for how the megalithic city was constructed. There are no quarries on the islets themselves, and the nearest known source of the basalt columns lies several kilometers away on the main island. Transporting and stacking such enormous stones with primitive tools and across open water would have been a feat bordering on the impossible. How could such a small island society have achieved it? Some researchers propose that the stones were moved using wooden rollers, rafts, or even bamboo rafts reinforced with coconut fiber ropes. Others argue that the basalt's natural columnar shape may have made stacking easier than it appears. Yet, even so, the sheer weight and scale of the construction remain difficult to explain. No written records survive, and no evidence of the tools or techniques used has ever been found. As with many ancient wonders, the absence of answers has invited speculation. Some theorists suggest Nan Madol might be the remnant of an older, lost civilization, perhaps one that predated known Polynesian settlement. A few even link it to the myth of Mu or Lemuria, legendary continents said to have sunk beneath the Pacific Ocean long ago. Could Nan Madol be one of the last surviving fragments of such a forgotten world? Others point to geological clues, the coral foundations, the precise alignment of structures, the city's unusual layout across tidal channels, as signs that its builders possessed a sophisticated understanding of engineering and the sea. Some of the walls align with astronomical events, hinting at a possible connection to celestial observation or ritual. Was Nan Madol not just a royal center, but a kind of open-air temple, a place where earth, sea, and stars converged in sacred harmony? Local tradition adds yet another layer of mystery. The Saudalur rulers were said to have enforced strict religious control, demanding tribute and obedience from the island's inhabitants. Over time, their rule grew oppressive, and the dynasty was overthrown by a warrior named Isokalakel, whose descendants still live on Pohnpei today. After their fall, Nan Madol was abandoned, left to the encroaching sea and forest. Islanders came to regard it as haunted, a place of spirits where no one should linger after dark. To this day, the ruins remain largely uninhabited. Tourists visit by boat, gliding through its narrow canals as sunlight filters through the palms, illuminating the silent basalt walls. Divers explore the submerged lower levels, where coral now clings to ancient steps and passageways. But much of Nan Madol still lies unexcavated. Beneath layers of silt and time, what else might rest below? Crypts, artifacts, or evidence of an even older phase of construction? The mystery persists. How was this city built, and by whom? Was it the work of ordinary islanders guided by extraordinary skill? Or the echo of something older, a memory from an age the world has forgotten? As the tide rises around its dark stone walls and the ocean begins to reclaim its edges, Nan Madol stands as both monument and question, a riddle carved in basalt and coral, whispering across the centuries. And as the waves lap gently against the stones, one can almost imagine the sound of voices, builders from a distant time, calling across the water, their story still waiting to be heard. From the drowned ruins of Nan Madol, where basalt walls whisper of forgotten empires, our journey turns inland, across centuries and continents, to the heart of medieval Europe. There, within the quiet archives of the National Library of Sweden, rests one of the most enigmatic manuscripts ever created. It is massive, bound in thick leather, its pages made of animal skin and darkened by time. Monks once called it the Codex Gigas, the giant book. But history remembers it by another name, the Devil's Bible. Standing nearly 3 feet tall and weighing over 160 pounds, the Codex Gigas is the largest surviving medieval manuscript in the world. Its size alone commands reverence and unease. Within its 620 pages lies a vast collection of texts, the complete Latin Bible, ancient medical treatises, chronicles of Bohemia, magical formulas, penitential prayers, and even an exorcism manual. It is a library within a single volume, the work of one mind, or perhaps something more. Its origins trace back to the early 13th century, to the Benedictine monastery of Podlajice in what is now the Czech Republic. According to surviving accounts, the manuscript was created by a single monk, an unnamed scribe who worked alone, night after night, within the monastery's dimly lit chambers. Tradition claims that he broke his vows, committing a grave sin so severe that his punishment was death by immurement, being sealed alive within a wall. In a desperate attempt to save himself, he promised to create in one night a book that would glorify the monastery and contain all human knowledge. Realizing the impossibility of his task, the monk is said to have made a terrible bargain. He prayed, not to God, but to the fallen angel Lucifer, offering his soul in exchange for help completing the manuscript. By morning, the legend says, the Codex Gigas was finished. At the center of the book, one image dominates the imagination of all who see it, a full-page portrait of the devil himself. The figure is striking: greenish skin, red claws, 2 tongues, and a crouched posture within a cage-like frame. Facing this dark illustration is another page showing the heavenly city, a vivid contrast between damnation and salvation. Scholars have long debated its purpose. Was it a warning to the reader, a symbolic expression of evil's presence, or something more personal, a signature from the being who helped create it? What is certain is that the Codex Gigas is an extraordinary feat of craftsmanship. Modern analysis suggests it would have taken a single scribe at least 20 years of continuous work to complete. Yet the handwriting throughout is remarkably uniform, unchanged in pressure, form, or style, leading some experts to wonder, was it truly the work of one person or many? And if one, how did he maintain such precision over decades of labor? The materials themselves add to the mystery. The parchment required the skins of more than 160 animals, likely donkeys or calves. Its inks, made from rare minerals, have barely faded in 800 years. Even its binding has survived wars, fires, and looting. The book's resilience feels almost unnatural, as if, against the decay of time, it refuses to perish. Over the centuries, the Codex Gigas passed through royal hands, monasteries, and libraries. During the 30 Years' War, Swedish troops seized it as spoils and carried it north, where it remains today. But wherever it went, stories followed, whispers of misfortune and fire. In 1648, when Prague was sacked, the castle that housed it burned. In 1697, the Royal Library in Stockholm also caught fire, yet the Codex was saved, thrown from a window by a quick-thinking librarian. Some claimed the devil himself protected it. Skeptics see the legend as nothing more than folklore, a medieval attempt to explain the inexplicable. The devil's portrait, they say, is simply a moral warning, not a signature. The uniform handwriting may reflect a disciplined monk's lifelong project, not the supernatural, but others remain unconvinced. Why the single, massive image of Lucifer, so unlike anything else in medieval manuscripts? Why the book's unnatural consistency, its improbable preservation, and its eerie atmosphere that even today seems to radiate from its pages? To hold the Codex Gigas, or even to stand before it, is to feel the weight of centuries pressing down. It is a relic that resists simple explanation, balancing between devotion and darkness. Whether born from faith, madness, or something far stranger, its existence challenges our understanding of what one person or one force could truly create. And as the library lights dim and the great book rests beneath its glass case, the question lingers: who or what was really writing when the Devil's Bible came to life? From the dimly lit monasteries of medieval Europe and the mysterious pages of the Codex Gigas, our journey now crosses the Atlantic into the vast wilderness of North America, where rivers carve through dense forests and the wind carries the echoes of forgotten ages. Here, among the rolling hills and icy waters of the Great Lakes region, lies another mystery, one not written on parchment but hammered in metal. Long before European contact, before the rise of great cities or nations, an ancient people worked the earth with remarkable skill. They shaped spears, knives, fishhooks, and ornaments, not from stone, as most early cultures did, but from pure copper, drawn directly from the veins of the earth. Their craftsmanship was so precise, so advanced, that modern archaeologists still struggle to fully explain how it began or why it ended. These are the copper culture artifacts of North America, remnants of a metallurgical tradition that flourished thousands of years ago, stretching back as far as 4000 BC, perhaps even earlier. The heart of this mystery lies in the region surrounding Lake Superior, where rich deposits of native copper lie scattered along the shores and within the ancient bedrock of the Keweenaw Peninsula. Here, in quiet forests and rocky bluffs, researchers have uncovered thousands of ancient mining pits. Some descend over 60 feet into the ground, their walls still bearing the marks of stone hammers and fire-setting techniques. Nearby, broken tools made of granite and basalt hint at a monumental effort. Generations of laborers extracting massive copper nodules, some weighing hundreds of pounds. In total, estimates suggest that more than 500,000 tons of copper were removed from these ancient mines. Yet no one knows exactly where it all went. The people responsible are known to archaeologists as the Old Copper Complex, a term describing a loose network of communities that lived throughout the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, and parts of Ontario. Their tools and ornaments have been found in burial mounds and river valleys across the region, suggesting extensive trade and cultural exchange. But what stands out most is the technology itself. Unlike later metalworkers, these ancient craftsmen did not smelt ore. Instead, they cold-hammered pure copper nuggets into shape, sometimes annealing them with heat to prevent cracking. This method, simple yet remarkably effective, allowed them to produce weapons and tools with both strength and elegance. Some blades bear edges so fine they rival those of later Bronze Age cultures in Europe and the Near East. And yet, here lies the enigma. The old copper complex flourished for millennia, and then it disappeared. Around 1000 BC, the great mining operations ceased. The tools grew smaller and more ornamental, and eventually, the entire copper-working tradition faded from history. No clear reason is known. Why did such an advanced practice, one that predated European metallurgy by thousands of years, vanish so completely? Some scholars point to environmental or social change. The climate shifted, they argue. Populations migrated, or the easily accessible copper was exhausted. Others suggest cultural transformation. Perhaps copper lost its sacred or practical value, replaced by trade goods or new materials. But there are deeper, more speculative questions. If 500,000 tons of copper were mined in antiquity, why has so little been found in archaeological sites? Could some of it have been traded far beyond the Great Lakes region? Some fringe researchers have gone further, suggesting transatlantic trade between ancient North America and Old World civilizations, proposing that this missing copper might have fueled the Bronze Age economies of Europe and the Mediterranean. Mainstream archaeology rejects this theory as unlikely, citing the lack of definitive evidence. Yet the sheer scale of the mining activity continues to raise eyebrows. Even the methods used seem ahead of their time. How did small, pre-agricultural societies organize such vast labor forces? How did they transport multi-ton boulders of raw copper across rivers and forests? And what knowledge, now lost, guided their precision? Some local legends, passed down through indigenous oral traditions, speak of sky people or visitors from the north who taught early tribes the art of working metal. These stories, poetic and symbolic, add a layer of mythic intrigue but remain open to interpretation. Were they allegories for ancestors, travelers, or something more mysterious? Today, remnants of these ancient copper pits still lie hidden beneath layers of moss and time. Many have collapsed or filled with earth, their true depth unknown. Artifacts continue to surface, beautifully shaped tools, awls, and spear points, each whispering of a culture that mastered the metal long before written history began. As the sun sets over Lake Superior, its light glints off the water, revealing the faint shimmer of copper in the stone. A reminder that beneath the surface, the earth still holds the memory of those who came before. Who were these early metallurgists? What inspired them to harness the power of the earth's hidden metal? And why, after centuries of mastery, did they simply stop? The answers remain buried, somewhere in the dark soil of the Great Lakes, or perhaps in the deeper layers of human memory, waiting for those who dare to dig just a little further. As the echoes of the copper miners fade into the distance, our journey turns once more across continents, this time to the high plateaus of southern Africa, where stone walls rise from the earth like the remnants of a forgotten empire. Here, under the golden light of the African sun, lies Great Zimbabwe, a city of mystery, majesty, and unanswered questions. At first glance, the ruins appear timeless, massive stone enclosures standing silent amid rolling hills and savanna. Towering granite walls curve in sweeping arcs, enclosing courtyards and passageways. No mortar binds these stones together. Instead, each block has been carefully shaped and placed with astonishing precision, creating structures that have endured for nearly a millennium. The most iconic among them, the Great Enclosure, still commands awe. A vast elliptical wall rising over 30 feet high, its surface smooth and seamless, crowned by the enigmatic conical tower, a solid, tapered monument whose purpose remains uncertain. For centuries, Great Zimbabwe has puzzled explorers, historians, and archaeologists alike. Who built this vast city? How did its architects achieve such mastery in stone construction? And what forces led to its eventual abandonment? What is known is this. Between the 11th and 15th centuries AD, Great Zimbabwe flourished as the heart of a powerful kingdom. Archaeological evidence suggests that it served as a royal palace, a political center, and a hub of trade, its influence stretching across southern Africa. Within its walls, excavations have uncovered gold ornaments, glass beads, Chinese porcelain, and Arabian ceramics, tangible proof that its people were connected to far-reaching networks that spanned continents. The wealth of Great Zimbabwe likely came from its control over gold mining and trade routes that led to the Indian Ocean. From there, goods flowed to the Swahili coast and beyond, to Arabia, India, and China. It was a city of commerce and craftsmanship, of wealth and culture. And yet, despite its scale and sophistication, the civilization behind it remains largely unnamed, its written records lost or never created. When European explorers first encountered the site in the late 19th century, they refused to believe it could have been built by African hands. Early colonial theories claimed it was the work of outsiders, Phoenicians, Arabs, even travelers from ancient Palestine. They pointed to the grandeur of the walls, the precision of the stonework, and the artifacts of distant lands as evidence of foreign builders. But these claims, shaped by prejudice and myth, would not endure. Modern archaeology has revealed that Great Zimbabwe was indeed the creation of a powerful African civilization, the ancestors of the Shona people. Radiocarbon dating, pottery analysis, and cultural continuity all point to a local origin, proof that the builders of Great Zimbabwe were indigenous to the region with their own advanced systems of architecture, trade, and governance. Yet, even with this understanding, many questions remain. How did these builders transport and shape the massive granite blocks, some weighing several tons, without the use of iron tools or beasts of burden? What inspired the layout of their structures, so harmonious and geometric that some scholars have likened them to celestial alignments or symbolic maps of power? And what of the conical tower itself? What meaning did it hold? Some suggest it represented a granary, a symbol of prosperity and fertility. Others believe it carried spiritual significance, perhaps tied to ancestral worship or royal authority. The very word Zimbabwe comes from the Shona phrase, Jimba Zamabwe, houses of stone. It evokes permanence, strength, and a legacy rooted in the land. Yet by the 15th century, the city was abandoned. The reasons are uncertain. Was it due to environmental decline, deforestation, soil exhaustion, or drought? Did shifting trade routes draw power and wealth toward other emerging centers like Mutapa? Or were there deeper, more mysterious causes, ones lost to time and legend? Local traditions speak of divine favor withdrawn, of spirits displeased, of knowledge once held and then forgotten. And even today, Great Zimbabwe remains a place of reverence, a symbol of national pride, yet also a site that whispers of secrets still buried beneath its stones. Some researchers, intrigued by its scale and symmetry, suggest that Great Zimbabwe's design encodes astronomical patterns, reflecting the movements of stars or the rhythm of seasons. Others wonder if its builders possessed esoteric knowledge, understandings of geometry, magnetism, or energy fields that modern science has only begun to rediscover. Standing within the great enclosure, one feels the quiet weight of centuries. The walls seem almost alive, breathing with the heat of the day, glowing beneath the twilight sky. Birds circle the towers. Wind sighs through narrow corridors once walked by kings, artisans, and traders. And as night falls, the stars emerge, ancient witnesses to an age when Great Zimbabwe was not a ruin, but a thriving city of stone and spirit. Who were the people who built this monumental complex? What knowledge guided their hands? And why, after generations of greatness, did they fade into silence? The ruins offer no clear answer, only the enduring presence of stone and the haunting sense that within its shadows the past still watches, waiting to be understood. As the memory of Great Zimbabwe's stone walls fades into the horizon, our journey leads us across oceans and mountains to the windswept high plains of the Andes. Here, more than 12,000 feet above sea level, lies one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites on Earth, Puma Punku, a place that seems to defy not only time but also human capability. The air here is thin, crisp, and charged with silence. From the surrounding altiplano, the remnants of Puma Punku emerge like fragments of a forgotten age. Massive stone blocks scattered across the landscape, some weighing over 100 tons. They rest amid the ruins of Tiwanaku, the once great capital of a pre-Incan civilization that thrived long before the rise of the Inca Empire. At first glance, Puma Punku appears as a field of colossal debris, yet closer inspection reveals something extraordinary. The stones, carved from red sandstone and gray andesite, bear cuts so precise, so mathematically perfect, that even today they challenge explanation. Many are shaped into intricate H blocks, each identical in proportion and design, as if mass-produced by an unknown technique. The edges are laser straight, the surfaces polished, and the interlocking joints fit together with uncanny accuracy. Archaeologists believe Puma Punku was built around 500 to 600 AD, forming part of Tiwanaku's sacred complex. It was likely a ceremonial center, a place of ritual and gathering. Yet the true function of its structures and the methods used to build them remain deeply mysterious. The site's most striking feature, however, is not merely its craftsmanship, but its alignment. Even in ruins, Puma Punku's layout suggests a deliberate orientation to celestial events. The remaining foundations and platforms align with the solstices and cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, with remarkable precision. When sunlight passes over the plateau during the equinox, shadows fall across the stone in a way that seems intentional, calculated, and deeply symbolic. Was Puma Punku designed as an astronomical observatory? Or did its builders seek to mirror the heavens on Earth, aligning their sacred architecture with the movements of the stars? Mainstream archaeologists propose that the Tiwanaku civilization possessed advanced astronomical knowledge, using the alignment to mark agricultural cycles or to honor deities connected with the sun and sky. Indeed, across the Andes, ancient cultures were known to chart the cosmos with astonishing skill. Yet, the precision of Puma Punku, especially considering its age and the size of its stones, pushes the limits of what we believe ancient tools could achieve. How did the builders cut and transport stones that weigh more than a modern locomotive? And how did they align their structures with such accuracy, without compasses, cranes, or metal tools? Some researchers suggest that the builders used a combination of simple but ingenious techniques: ropes, ramps, levers, and abundant manpower to move and shape the stones. Others, however, remain unconvinced. The level of precision, they argue, resembles modern machine work, edges sharp enough to slide a razor blade between. Could this point to lost technology, or knowledge that has since vanished from human history? In more speculative circles, Puma Punku has become a focal point of alternative theories. Claims of ancient engineers, forgotten civilizations, or even visitors from beyond our world. The scale, precision, and astronomical alignment have inspired comparisons to other megalithic mysteries across the globe, from Stonehenge to the pyramids of Egypt, suggesting that ancient builders may have shared a universal language of geometry and celestial knowledge. Yet, despite decades of excavation and research, no definitive answers have emerged. The stones remain silent, their inscriptions erased by time, their purpose still shrouded in ambiguity. One particularly intriguing discovery came when researchers mapped the site's geometry and found that the foundations of Puma Punku align not only with the solstices, but also with other structures across the Tiwanaku complex, forming a pattern that appears to encode both astronomical and geometric relationships. Was this coincidence? Or did the builders possess a deeper understanding of Earth's orientation and the movements of the cosmos? Standing among the ruins, it's easy to feel the weight of those questions. The Andean winds whistle softly between the stones, carrying echoes of chants and footsteps from a vanished people. The sun rises over the distant Cordillera Mountains, illuminating the angles of each block as if revealing a code too ancient to read. Perhaps Puma Punku's builders sought to bridge the realms of earth and sky, to align their sacred space with the order of the universe. Or perhaps what we see today is only a fragment of something far greater, a monument whose true purpose lies buried beneath centuries of silence. Even now, the mystery endures. What knowledge guided the architects of Puma Punku? What cosmic design did they seek to honor in stone? And as we gaze upon its ruins, we are left to wonder, are we looking at the remnants of an earthly civilization's forgotten genius, or something far more profound, still waiting to be understood? As the stones of Puma Punku fade into the high Andean mist, our journey shifts northward, across deserts, rivers, and mountain ranges, toward the endless grasslands of Central Asia. Here, beneath the boundless blue sky of Mongolia, lies another mystery, not carved from stone, but buried in silence. Somewhere amid these sweeping steps, the tomb of Genghis Khan, one of history's most formidable conquerors, remains hidden. For centuries, it has eluded explorers, scholars, and kings. It is said that no one alive knows where the great Khan was laid to rest, and those who once did took that secret with them into death. The landscape itself feels eternal. The steppe rolls endlessly toward the horizon, where distant mountains rise like shadows from another age. In spring, the grass shimmers gold and green beneath the wind. In winter, snow veils the earth in silence. Somewhere beneath this vast, unmarked world, legend says, lies a tomb unlike any other, a resting place shrouded not just in earth, but in myth. According to historical chronicles, when Genghis Khan died in 1227, his body was carried back to his homeland near the sacred Burkan Khaldun mountain. His funeral procession was secret, guarded by fierce loyalty and an ancient code of silence. Some accounts claim that the soldiers who carried his body killed anyone who crossed their path, ensuring no witness could reveal the route. When they reached the burial site, It is said that those same soldiers were executed to preserve the secrecy forever. From there, the stories diverge. Some say that rivers were diverted to flow over the tomb, concealing it beneath water and mud. Others tell of horses trampled across the ground to erase all traces of the burial. A few accounts even suggest that forests were planted to hide the location, ensuring that not even the earth itself would betray the Khan's final resting place. For centuries, explorers have searched for the tomb, archaeologists, historians, and even modern treasure hunters driven by curiosity and legend. Yet despite countless expeditions, satellite surveys, and historical analyses, no definitive trace has ever been found. The Mongol people, deeply reverent of their history, believe that the secrecy of the tomb is sacred, that disturbing it would bring dishonor, or perhaps worse, to those who dare. The site, many say, is meant to remain hidden, its mystery preserved by the will of the great Khan himself. Still, the human desire to know persists. What might rest inside such a tomb? Ancient texts describe Genghis Khan as a ruler who united tribes, conquered empires, and commanded vast riches. Could his burial chamber contain treasures of the Mongol Empire? Gold, jewels, weapons, or documents that might rewrite the history of Eurasia? Or could it hold something even more extraordinary? The remains of the man whose shadow once stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe? In recent decades, technology has deepened the mystery rather than solved it. A team led by modern archaeologists used remote sensing and satellite imaging to scan the region around Birken Khaldun. Patterns emerged: possible mounds, buried structures, unusual alignments, but none could be confirmed without excavation. Out of respect for Mongolian tradition, digging has been forbidden. The sacred mountain and its surroundings remain untouched, guarded by law and by cultural reverence. And yet, whispers continue. Some researchers believe the tomb could lie far from Mongolia, perhaps in the Ordos region of China, or even farther west, where ancient records hint at a secret burial ground for Mongol nobles. Others have suggested that the tomb may have already been destroyed or swallowed by time, lost beneath centuries of earth and erosion. But there are also those who sense something more enigmatic at work. Could the tomb's secrecy be part of a deliberate design, a message from a ruler who understood power not only in life, but in legend? Genghis Khan's empire reshaped the ancient world. Perhaps his disappearance into myth was his final conquest, to transcend mortality itself. The wind sweeps across the plains, bending the grass in endless waves. Somewhere out there, beneath centuries of silence, the great Khan may still rest, his story complete, yet unfinished. And yet, whispers continue. Some researchers believe the tomb could lie far from Mongolia, perhaps in the Ordos region of China, or even farther west, where ancient records hint at a secret burial ground for Mongol nobles. Others have suggested that the tomb may have already been destroyed or swallowed by time, lost beneath centuries of earth and erosion. But there are also those who sense something more enigmatic at work. Could the tomb's secrecy be part of a deliberate design, a message from a ruler who understood power not only in life, but in legend? Genghis Khan's empire reshaped the ancient world. Perhaps his disappearance into myth was his final conquest, to transcend mortality itself. The wind sweeps across the plains, bending the grass in endless waves. Somewhere out there, beneath centuries of silence, the great Khan may still rest, his story complete, yet unfinished. As the winds of the Mongolian steppe fade into silence, our journey turns westward, toward the sun-scorched landscapes of the Mediterranean, where another tomb, equally legendary, continues to elude discovery. It is said to have once held the body of a man who sought to conquer the known world, a king whose name still echoes through history, Alexander the Great. The story begins over 2 millennia ago. When Alexander died in Babylon in 323 BC, his empire stretched from Greece to the edges of India. He was 32 years old, young, powerful, and seemingly unstoppable. Yet his death came suddenly, surrounded by mystery. Some say it was fever, others whisper of poison. Whatever the cause, one fact remains. The world's greatest conqueror was gone, and the fate of his body soon became one of history's greatest enigmas. According to ancient records, Alexander's generals fought fiercely over his remains, believing that possession of his body conferred divine legitimacy. His coffin, said to be made of solid gold, was placed within a massive funerary cart and set out on a journey west. Its destination was Macedonia, his homeland. But somewhere along the way, plans changed. Ptolemy, one of Alexander's trusted generals and future ruler of Egypt, intercepted the funeral procession and brought the coffin to Memphis and later to Alexandria, the city Alexander himself had founded on Egypt's northern coast. There, the tomb became a place of pilgrimage. Great rulers and philosophers came to pay homage: Julius Caesar, Augustus, and even Caligula, who reportedly took the golden coffin itself, replacing it with one of glass or crystal. But as centuries passed, the location of the tomb began to fade from memory. By the time of the early Christian era, the once revered site had vanished. Wars, earthquakes, floods, and shifting sands all played their part. Alexandria itself changed, rebuilt layer upon layer, its ancient streets buried beneath the modern city we know today. And so, the question remains: where is the tomb of Alexander the Great? Archaeologists have searched for centuries, combing through ruins, libraries, and legends. Some believe it lies beneath modern Alexandria, hidden beneath streets and apartment blocks, sealed under centuries of urban growth. Others suspect it lies beyond the city, perhaps near Siwa Oasis, where Alexander once visited the Oracle of Amun, believing himself to be the son of a god. Each theory brings tantalizing clues. Ancient writers such as Strabo and Plutarch described the tomb's grandeur, its lavish structure, its golden sarcophagus, and the divine aura that surrounded it. Yet none of these accounts agree precisely on its position. Some claim it was near the royal quarter of Alexandria. Others place it along the city's ancient main street, now lost beneath layers of modern construction. In 2019, a discovery in northern Egypt briefly stirred global attention. Archaeologists uncovered a massive black granite sarcophagus, sealed and untouched for centuries. Speculation ran wild. Could this be the lost tomb of Alexander? But when it was opened, the remains inside were not those of a Macedonian king, but of 3 ordinary individuals, their identities unknown. The mystery, it seemed, had only deepened. Other findings hint at possibilities, but stop short of certainty. Ancient maps, fragments of inscriptions, and local legends all point to different sites. Some even suggest that the tomb may have been relocated, moved, hidden, or destroyed in later centuries to protect it from desecration. And then there are the more speculative theories. Some believe that the tomb may lie beneath the Great Library of Alexandria, destroyed long ago by fire and war. Others suggest that Alexander's remains were secretly moved to a remote burial chamber, perhaps beneath the desert sands, or even beneath the sea itself. If it still exists, it could hold extraordinary insights, not just into Alexander's life, but into the very fabric of the ancient world. What treasures, inscriptions, or artifacts might rest alongside his remains? What secrets of history could such a discovery reveal or challenge? Standing in modern Alexandria, where traffic hums over the buried ruins of antiquity, it is almost impossible to imagine the grandeur of what once was. The sea crashes against the corniche, where marble temples and palaces once stood. Beneath it all, Somewhere deep under stone and sand could lie one of history's most sought-after tombs, a silent witness to an age of conquest and glory. And so the question lingers. Did the tomb of Alexander survive the centuries, hidden just beyond our reach? Or has it, like his empire, been lost to time, dissolved into legend? For now, the sands of Egypt keep their secret. The city sleeps above it, unaware, or perhaps unwilling, to disturb what may rest below. Somewhere beneath the earth, perhaps, the great conqueror still lies waiting. A king without a tomb, yet never forgotten. From the mystery of Alexander's lost tomb, perhaps still hidden beneath the ancient streets of Alexandria, we descend deeper into that same city's shadowed heart. Beneath its bustling modern life lies another secret, a vast, spiraling maze carved into the bedrock, known as the Catacombs of Shoqafa. At first glance, the site seems like many other necropolises of the ancient world. Yet, as one steps into its depths, it becomes clear this is no ordinary burial ground. The air grows cooler, the light dimmer, and the sounds of the surface world fade into silence. Spiral staircases wind downward into the earth, leading into chambers where stone walls bear carvings unlike any found elsewhere in Egypt. Statues stare from shadowed alcoves, figures of Egyptian gods adorned not in pharaonic style, but in the robes of Greco-Roman deities. Here, in this place of the dead, two civilizations intertwine in haunting harmony. Discovered by chance in 1900 when a donkey reportedly fell through a hole in the ground, Shoqafa revealed an astonishing world below the city of Alexandria. Its name, meaning Mound of Shards, comes from the piles of broken pottery once found at its entrance, vessels discarded after funerary offerings, too sacred to reuse. But what lay beneath that mound stunned archaeologists and historians alike. The catacombs extend through multiple levels, their walls adorned with a striking fusion of art and iconography. Egyptian motifs blend seamlessly with Greek and Roman influences. Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead, appears dressed as a Roman soldier. Horus and Isis share space with Medusa and winged cherubs. Coffins and sarcophagi bear inscriptions in Greek beside hieroglyphs, creating a strange dialogue between worlds. Scholars believe the catacombs were built during the 2nd century AD, a time when Alexandria was a cultural crossroads. Under Roman rule, Egyptian and Hellenistic traditions merged into something altogether unique. The catacombs may have served as a family tomb, perhaps for a wealthy Greek-Egyptian household, designed to honor both their heritage and their faith in an afterlife. Yet, beyond these reasonable interpretations, the site raises deeper, more puzzling questions. How, for instance, did the builders construct such a complex subterranean structure in an area prone to groundwater flooding? Some of the lower levels remain submerged even today, suggesting that the catacombs may once have been larger, stretching farther beneath the city than we currently know. Could there be hidden chambers still sealed beneath layers of stone and silt, lost to time? And then there is the curious architecture itself. The corridors twist and loop in unexpected directions, leading to dead ends or circular passageways that seem designed to confuse. Was this an accident of design, or something intentional, perhaps symbolic? Some researchers suggest that the labyrinthine layout mirrors the soul's journey through the afterlife, a spiritual maze guiding the dead toward eternal rest. Others note the uncanny resemblance between these winding tunnels and the ancient Egyptian concept of the duat, the underworld through which the soul must pass, facing trials and guardians before achieving immortality. As one moves deeper into the complex, the boundaries between cultures and between worlds begin to blur. The central rotunda, once accessed by a spiral staircase, opens into chambers where sarcophagi are carved directly from the rock. The walls shimmer faintly under torchlight, revealing reliefs of funerary rituals, banquets, and mythic scenes. Some of the carvings depict figures who seem to stand between realities, half divine, half human, as if the artists themselves were unsure where life ended and eternity began. Over the decades, archaeologists have explored much of el Shoqafa, yet questions persist. Could the catacombs have had a secret function beyond burial? Some have speculated that it may once have served as an initiatory temple for mystery cults, groups that practiced secret rites blending Egyptian and Greco-Roman beliefs. Others wonder whether the site's construction hides references to lost esoteric knowledge, clues left behind by ancient priests and philosophers who sought to unite body and spirit, life and death, Egypt and Rome. In recent years, sonar mapping and limited underwater surveys have hinted that more lies beneath the known chambers, collapsed tunnels, submerged passageways, perhaps even sealed rooms that remain untouched since antiquity. But further exploration is limited by the fragile structure and rising water levels beneath the modern city. Above ground, Alexandria has changed beyond recognition. The modern skyline rises over what was once the intellectual and spiritual heart of the ancient world, a city of light, knowledge, and ambition. Yet, below it, the catacombs remain, silent and waiting, their secrets locked behind the weight of centuries. Who were the people buried here? What beliefs guided their hand as they carved gods in unfamiliar forms, merging mythologies across worlds? And what other chambers might still sleep beneath the earth, unseen, preserving fragments of a forgotten age? The catacombs of el Shoqafa remind us that history is not a single story, but a conversation across time, a labyrinth of memory where every turn reveals a new mystery, and every silence hints at something still hidden in the dark. From the silent tunnels of el Shoqafa, where ancient beliefs intertwined and blurred the line between life and death, we turn now to a relic that continues to stir both faith and controversy. A single piece of cloth that, for centuries, has captivated scientists, historians, and believers alike. It is known as the Shroud of Turin. Inside the dimly lit Cathedral of Turin, Italy, the air feels heavy, quiet, reverent. Within a protective glass case, preserved under controlled light and temperature, lies a length of linen just over 4 meters long. At first glance, it seems unremarkable, aged fabric, yellowed by time. But as one steps closer, the faint image becomes visible. A ghostly imprint of a man's body, front and back, stretched across the cloth as though wrapped in death. The face, serene yet haunting, bears marks of suffering. Many believe this is the burial shroud that once covered Jesus of Nazareth. Others see it as a medieval forgery, an extraordinary work of art or deception. But whatever it may be, its mystery endures. The first confirmed appearance of the shroud dates to the mid-14th century, when it was displayed in the small French town of Lycurgus. From there, it passed through noble hands before eventually arriving in Turin in 1578, where it remains today. The Catholic Church, while cautious, allows veneration of the relic, but stops short of officially declaring it authentic. What makes the shroud so compelling is not only its religious significance, but the inexplicable nature of the image itself. The figure is not painted, drawn, or burned into the fabric. Under microscopic analysis, no pigments or brush strokes are found. The image appears only on the very surface fibers of the linen, as if the material were briefly exposed to an intense burst of light or radiation. Even modern technology struggles to reproduce it. In 1898, when Italian photographer Secondo Pia took the first photograph of the shroud, he made an astonishing discovery. The negative plate revealed a startlingly detailed positive image of the man's face, clearer than what could be seen with the naked eye. The world took notice. Suddenly, the shroud seemed not just a relic of faith, but a scientific enigma. Subsequent studies deepened the mystery. The body on the cloth appears to bear wounds consistent with crucifixion, nail marks in the wrists and feet, blood stains on the head as though from a crown of thorns, and a gash along the side. The image shows swelling around the cheeks and knees, signs of severe beating. Could this really be the image of a man crucified 2,000 years ago? Yet scientific tests have not offered clarity. In 1988, radiocarbon dating conducted by 3 independent laboratories placed the shroud's origin between 1260 and 1390 AD, suggesting it was created in the medieval period, long after the time of Christ. For many, this seemed to settle the debate, but not all agreed. Critics of the tests pointed to possible contamination from centuries of handling, exposure to fire, and repair work performed after damage in the 1500s. Some argue that the samples tested may not have come from the original fabric at all. Other researchers have suggested that the image could have formed through a natural chemical process, perhaps involving bodily gases reacting with the linen fibers after death. Still others propose that it was created by some form of ancient photography or light exposure, long before such techniques were known. And then there are theories that venture further into the unknown, that the image might be the result of a powerful, unexplained energy discharge, an event coinciding with the very moment of resurrection, if the story of the shroud's subject is to be believed. Each explanation seems to circle back upon itself, unable to close the mystery completely. The shroud resists both faith and science, refusing to belong entirely to either realm. Today, advanced imaging and spectral analysis continue to probe its secrets. Researchers study the traces of pollen embedded in its fibers, grains from plants found not only in Europe, but in regions of Palestine, suggesting a journey that may have begun in the ancient Near East. Could the cloth have traveled across continents, its origins far older than the carbon tests suggest? Or does this simply reflect the movements of relic traders in medieval Europe, eager to link their treasures to sacred history? As the centuries pass, the Shroud of Turin remains what it has always been, a mirror reflecting human belief, doubt, and wonder. It invites every generation to ask anew, who was the man in the cloth? Was this truly the face of Jesus, captured in light beyond comprehension? Or merely the work of human hands, crafted with purpose we no longer understand? Perhaps the greater mystery is not the cloth itself, but our enduring need to seek meaning in what we cannot explain, to find, within the silence of an ancient linen, the echo of something divine. From the sacred relic of the Shroud of Turin, where faith and science intertwine in quiet uncertainty, we journey now to the windswept coast of southern Peru, to a place where the earth itself holds a different kind of enigma. Beneath the ochre sands of the Paracas Peninsula lie the remains of an ancient civilization, and with them, a mystery that has puzzled archaeologists, anthropologists, and the curious for nearly a century. These are the Paracas skulls, elongated, smooth, and strange. Unearthed in the 1920s by Peruvian archaeologist Julio Tello, they were unlike anything ever seen before. Over 300 of these skulls were discovered in the Paracas necropolis, a vast desert burial site carved into the cliffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Wrapped in textiles of extraordinary craftsmanship, the bodies they belonged to spoke of a sophisticated culture, one that thrived long before the rise of the Inca Empire. But what truly captured attention were the heads. Some were nearly 25% larger and 60% heavier than normal human skulls. Their cranial vault stretched upward and backward in a conical shape, as though molded by unseen hands. The eye sockets were larger, the jawlines narrower. To those seeing them for the first time, the effect was almost otherworldly. Mainstream archaeology explains the phenomenon as cranial deformation, a deliberate cultural practice found among various ancient societies. From the Maya and the Egyptians to the tribes of Africa and Eurasia, many peoples bound the heads of infants with cloth or wooden boards, reshaping the skull as it grew. The reasons may have been aesthetic, spiritual, or social, perhaps to signify status, lineage, or beauty. But the Paracas skulls raised deeper questions. While head binding can change the shape of a skull, it cannot increase its internal volume or alter its structure at the base. Some of the Paracas skulls seem to display unusual anatomical differences. Fewer cranial sutures, larger cranial capacity, and in some cases, distinct variations in bone thickness and density. Were these simply misinterpretations of natural variation? Or could they point to something we still don't fully understand? When DNA analysis was first attempted on samples from the Paracas remains, the results only deepened the mystery. Early tests, though controversial and not peer-reviewed, suggested that the genetic markers did not match those of known indigenous populations of South America. Some sequences were said to show affinities with distant regions of Eurasia or the Near East. These findings ignited a wave of speculation. Could the Paracas people have originated from an unknown migration, perhaps across the Pacific or even earlier? Others took the theories further, beyond the realm of conventional science. To them, the skulls were evidence of something far older and far stranger, a lost race, perhaps descended from a forgotten civilization or even a species not entirely human. Their argument leaned not only on the skull's shape, but on the inexplicable sophistication of ancient South American cultures, the precision of their stonework, the astronomical alignments of their monuments, and their sudden emergence without clear evolutionary or cultural precursors. Yet caution remains essential. For every extraordinary claim, there are voices urging restraint. Some researchers argue that the anomalies in the Paracas skulls can be explained by developmental factors or misinterpretation of damage over time. Radiocarbon dating places most of the Paracas burials between 800 and 100 BC, consistent with regional cultural development. Others note that the DNA samples may have been compromised, tainted by handling, environmental decay, or modern contamination. Still, the mystery refuses to fade. Each new study seems to open as many questions as it answers. If the Paracas people practiced head shaping, what inspired the tradition? Was it purely aesthetic, or did it imitate something they once saw or remembered? Could their ancestors have encountered others, real or imagined, who naturally bore such elongated forms? In the silent tombs beneath the desert cliffs, the skulls rest as they have for over 2 millennia, staring upward toward the endless sky. Their strange beauty continues to provoke wonder and unease. Who were these people who reshaped not only their world, but their very bodies? What beliefs guided such devotion to form, and perhaps the most haunting question of all, were they trying to become like someone or something else? The desert wind sweeps over Paracas, erasing footprints, reshaping dunes, concealing the past beneath new layers of time. Somewhere beneath that shifting sand, fragments of the truth still wait, half buried, half forgotten. And until they are uncovered, the Paracas skulls will remain one of the most haunting enigmas of the ancient world, a mystery suspended between earth and sky. From the wind-swept necropolises of Paracas and the enigmatic skulls that defy conventional explanation, our path turns inland, toward the high valleys and rugged plateaus of the Peruvian Andes. Here, amid quiet expanses of stone and sky, lies another riddle of the ancient world. It is not a monument of carved rock or a relic of lost civilization, but a phenomenon woven into the very fabric of the landscape itself, one that challenges the laws of gravity and, perhaps, perception itself. They are known as the Magnetic Hills of Peru, remote, unassuming stretches of road where cars, stones, and even water appear to defy gravity, rolling uphill against the slope. Travelers who come upon these places often stop in disbelief. A parked car, engine off, begins to drift backward up an incline. A bottle placed on the ground rolls the wrong way. Even streams seem to flow in defiance of their natural course. What is happening here? To the untrained eye, it seems like a trick of the supernatural, an unseen force tugging at the fabric of reality. Yet to those who study such things, these places are known as gravity hills, optical illusions born from the subtle interplay of terrain and horizon. What appears to be an upward slope is, in fact, a downward one, cleverly disguised by the surrounding landscape. The mind, deceived by the angle of trees, mountains, and the curvature of the road, simply misjudges what it sees. That, at least, is the standard explanation. But in Peru, the mystery deepens. For here, among the Andes and the Nazca Plains, the so-called magnetic hills often appear near regions already steeped in ancient wonder and unexplained phenomena. Some are said to lie not far from the great geoglyphs of Nazca, those immense figures etched into the desert floor, visible only from the sky. Others are near sites of magnetic and geological anomalies, where compasses spin unpredictably and birds alter their flight paths. Coincidence or connection? Local legends suggest a deeper story. To the Quechua and Aymara people, these places are huacas, sacred spots where the earth's energy gathers and flows, points of harmony between the world of the living and the unseen realms of the ancestors. Travelers speak of sensations of dizziness, disorientation, even euphoria when standing within these zones. Some claim electronic devices falter, compasses deviate, and camera lenses blur as though the very air vibrates differently. Modern geologists have noted that parts of southern Peru are rich in iron ore and other magnetic minerals, substances capable of distorting local magnetic fields. Could it be that these forces, combined with the unique geomorphology of the region, create natural illusions or even subtle electromagnetic effects? Or might ancient builders and travelers have been aware of these energies long before the language of science sought to explain them? Some researchers have proposed that Peru's ancient cultures may have deliberately constructed ceremonial paths or markers along these energetic lines, what some call earth currents or telluric pathways. The Nazca lines, the megalithic architecture of Cusco, even the stone gateways of Tiwanaku, all seem to align with patterns invisible to the naked eye. Could the so-called magnetic hills have been known to those who once mapped the world according to principles now lost? Then there are the more speculative theories, those that drift at the edge of science and myth. A few researchers and explorers have suggested that these zones might be remnants of ancient technology or unknown natural processes linked to the planet's magnetic grid. Others point to ancient traditions that speak of sky beings or celestial teachers who descended in whirlwinds of light, marking certain places as sacred. If such legends were rooted in real phenomena, could these magnetic hills have been part of something greater? An ancient understanding of the Earth's hidden powers? Yet, amid all the speculation, one simple truth remains. When you stand upon one of these hills, your senses are quietly overruled. The world seems to tilt in impossible directions. A car rolls backward up a slope. A trickle of water flows against gravity. Your mind insists it cannot be, yet your eyes bear witness. Perhaps the real mystery lies not in the hills themselves, but in the limits of perception, the delicate balance between what we see and what we believe. Could the ancients have understood this interplay of illusion and reality better than we do? As the Andean sun sets over the distant ridges, casting long shadows across the land, the magnetic hills of Peru remain silent. Whether they are tricks of the light, windows into deeper geophysical secrets, or echoes of forgotten knowledge, they remind us of something profound, that even in the modern world, there are places where the earth seems to whisper. Not everything is as it seems, And as the night falls over the Peruvian highlands, one can't help but wonder how many more of these hidden forces lie waiting, scattered across the landscape of time, still defying both gravity and explanation. From the windswept highlands of Peru, where gravity itself seems to play tricks on the senses, our journey now drifts across the Pacific, into one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth, a lonely island, adrift in the endless blue, more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continent. Here, rising from the rolling green hills and volcanic slopes, stand silent sentinels carved from stone, the Moai of Easter Island. Massive, stoic, and timeless, these figures seem to watch both the land and the sea, guardians of a mystery that has endured for centuries. Some tower over 30 feet tall, weighing as much as 80 tons. Others lie half buried in the earth, as though still waiting to awaken. Their blank, unblinking eyes and solemn expressions evoke a feeling that is difficult to describe, a sense of reverence, perhaps, or quiet warning. The island, known locally as Rapa Nui, is small, barely 63 square miles, and yet it holds nearly 900 of these colossal statues. Each one was carved from volcanic tuff, quarried from the slopes of Rano Raraku, an extinct volcano that seems almost alive with half-finished forms. But what has puzzled explorers, historians, and engineers alike for generations is not only the craftsmanship of the Moai, but the question that refuses to die. How were they moved? Imagine it. Tens of tons of solid stone carved with stone tools, hauled across uneven terrain, sometimes for miles, to be placed upon stone platforms called ahu along the island's perimeter. There were no beasts of burden, no metal tools, and no wheels on Rapa Nui. The people had only their hands, their ingenuity, and their will. Yet somehow, these immense figures were not just transported, but positioned upright, perfectly balanced, often facing inland, as though guarding the living from the unseen. For centuries, theories have competed for dominance. Early European explorers suggested that giants or supernatural forces might have lifted them. Later, archaeologists proposed that the statues were laid on wooden sledges and dragged across logs, a feat that would have demanded enormous manpower and, more critically, vast quantities of timber. But Rapa Nui is now largely treeless. Could such a method have been possible without devastating the island's fragile ecosystem? Some researchers, like the archaeologist Jo Ann van Tilburg, have suggested that ropes, levers, and clever engineering may have been enough. Others, such as Pavel Pavel and Thor Heyerdahl, demonstrated a different possibility, that the statues could have been walked upright, rocked gently from side to side using ropes and coordinated effort, much like moving a refrigerator. Local oral traditions even describe the Moai as having walked themselves to their resting places. Was this a poetic metaphor, or a cryptic memory of a real technique lost to time? And still, the mystery lingers. How did an isolated culture, surrounded by the vast Pacific, achieve such a monumental feat of logistics and artistry? Some fringe theories suggest that the people of Rapa Nui possessed a forgotten form of knowledge, perhaps an understanding of sound, vibration, or magnetic forces that allowed them to move massive stones with surprising ease. Others propose that the island once belonged to a greater seafaring civilization, an outpost of an ancient world now lost beneath the ocean's depths. Of course, mainstream archaeology remains cautious. Evidence points to careful planning, human coordination, and ingenuity, not supernatural assistance. But even within these explanations, questions remain. Why build so many? Why commit generations of effort to raise stone giants that seem to grow ever larger and more elaborate with time? What drove the Rapa Nui people to pour such devotion into their silent ancestors, even as their environment began to collapse? Perhaps the answer lies in the Moai themselves, in what they represent. To the islanders, they were not merely statues, but living presences, vessels of ancestral power known as mana. Each one embodied a chief, a lineage, a spiritual guardian. To raise a Moai was to give the ancestors form and sight, to ensure their protection over the living. Yet when the last trees fell and the old ways faded, the statues stood abandoned, their purpose lost to the winds and waves. Today, the Moai remain, weathered, scarred, and silent. Theories multiply, experiments continue, and yet the image endures. These immense figures, carved by human hands, somehow traveling miles across barren ground to stand in eternal watch over a forgotten paradise. Was it mere muscle and wood that moved them, or was there something more? An ancient knowledge, a harmony with nature and the unseen that we no longer understand. As the Pacific sun sinks into the horizon, casting the long shadows of the Moai across the grasslands of Rapa Nui, one can almost feel their gaze following the fading light. They seem to ask, without words, the same question that has haunted every visitor who stands before them. How did we come to be here? And perhaps, somewhere beneath the stone silence, the island still remembers. From the distant Pacific, where stone giants stand silent under the open sky, our journey now returns to one of the oldest and most enigmatic monuments ever carved by human hands. A monument older than memory, older perhaps than the sands that surround it. Rising from the edge of the Giza Plateau, its gaze fixed eternally toward the east, stands the Great Sphinx. At dawn, the first rays of sunlight spill over the horizon, brushing the weathered face of this colossal guardian. Half lion, half human, it lies carved directly from the bedrock, its body stretching over 240 feet in length. The air here feels heavy, with history, with silence, and with questions that have yet to find an answer. For centuries, the Sphinx has been a symbol of ancient power, wisdom, and mystery. It stands before the pyramids like a sentinel guarding the secrets of time. Archaeologists generally agree that it was carved around 2500 BC during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, whose pyramid rises just behind it. Yet beneath the official story, another possibility has lingered, one that challenges the established timeline of civilization itself. It began with the stones, their scars, their patterns, their story. In the early 1990s, a geologist named Dr. Robert Schoch examined the weathering on the Sphinx's enclosure. What he observed puzzled him deeply. The grooves, the rounded contours of the limestone walls and the deep channels etched into the surface did not resemble the marks left by mere wind and sand. Instead, they looked unmistakably like the work of water, long, sustained rainfall eroding the rock over centuries. But how could that be? The Giza Plateau has been arid for more than 5,000 years. The last time heavy rains fell here was long before the rise of the pharaohs, back when the Sahara was still a green savanna dotted with lakes and rivers. If the erosion was caused by water, then the Sphinx must have been carved not in the age of Khafra, but thousands of years earlier, perhaps as far back as 7,000 or even 9,000 BC. Such a claim, if true, would rewrite the history of human civilization. It would suggest that advanced stoneworking cultures existed long before Egypt's first dynasties, at a time when most of humanity is believed to have lived in simple nomadic societies. Mainstream Egyptologists, however, strongly disagree. They argue that the erosion is caused not by rainfall, but by wind and sand, by the slow grinding of centuries in the desert heat. They point to inscriptions, architectural alignments, and the presence of Khafra's temples as clear evidence linking the Sphinx to his reign. The idea of an older Sphinx, they say, underestimates the ingenuity of the ancient Egyptians and overestimates the mystery of erosion. And yet, the questions persist. If the water erosion hypothesis is wrong, why does the pattern differ so sharply from the nearby pyramid structures, which show only horizontal wind erosion? Why does the Sphinx's enclosure seem older, more ancient, more weathered than everything that surrounds it? Some researchers, following Shok's findings, have gone further still. They suggest that the Sphinx may have once borne a completely different face, perhaps that of a lion carved in honor of the constellation Leo, symbolizing an era when the sun rose in that part of the sky around 10,500 BC. Others whisper of lost civilizations, of survivors from a forgotten epoch, builders who left behind a monument to their existence before being swept away by cataclysm. Even the ground beneath the Sphinx holds its secrets. In the 1990s, seismic surveys revealed curious anomalies beneath the monument, chamber-like voids cut deep into the bedrock. Some believe they may be natural cavities. Others insist they are deliberate, ancient repositories that might contain records or artifacts from a civilization long vanished. The Egyptian authorities have denied access to deeper excavations, fueling speculation about what may lie hidden beneath. Yet, amid all the debate, one truth remains clear. The Sphinx is far older than its recorded story allows us to comfortably explain. Its face, eroded and enigmatic, seems almost weary, its eyes fixed on a horizon that remembers what we have forgotten. Could it be that the sands of Giza conceal evidence of a civilization far more ancient than Egypt itself? Or are we simply seeing patterns where none exist, shaped by time, wind, and human imagination? As the sun sets behind the pyramids, the light fades from the Sphinx's face, and shadows fill the carved enclosure once again. The silence deepens, the air cools, and the ancient guardian of stone continues its watch, wordless, patient, eternal, over mysteries that refuse to be buried. Perhaps, in its silent endurance, the Sphinx knows the truth, but for now, that truth remains locked within the weathered scars of its body, waiting for the day when the sands will finally give up their secrets. As the sun dips low over the Andean highlands, its golden light dances across the still, cold waters of Lake Titicaca, glimmering like liquid glass at the roof of the world. Stretching between modern-day Peru and Bolivia, this vast, shimmering expanse lies more than 12,000 feet above sea level, making it one of the highest navigable lakes on Earth. Yet, beneath its tranquil surface, hidden beneath centuries of silt and shadow, lies a mystery that has confounded archaeologists and historians alike, an ancient world submerged in silence. For generations, the people of the Andes have regarded Lake Titicaca as sacred, the cradle of creation. According to Inca mythology, it was here that the god Viracocha emerged from the waters to bring light to the world, forming the first people and sending them to populate the earth. The lake, in this sense, was not merely a body of water, it was the birthplace of civilization itself. But what if that legend contains a fragment of truth? What if, beneath the deep blue surface, there really was a civilization, one that vanished long before the rise of the Inca? In the year 2000, a joint team of Italian and Bolivian researchers began an underwater exploration that would capture the world's attention. Using sonar scans and submersible cameras, they discovered what appeared to be the remains of ancient stone structures, walls, terraces, even a possible temple complex, lying deep beneath the lake's southern basin. Among the findings were carved stone blocks, measuring several meters in length, arranged with uncanny precision, as if they once formed the foundation of a forgotten city. Artifacts recovered from the site included ceramics, carved stones, and what seemed to be offerings, objects that hinted at ritual or spiritual purpose. carbon dating suggested that some materials might predate the rise of Tiwanaku, the great civilization that once dominated this region around 500 BC to 1000 AD. This raised a profound question. Who built these underwater structures, and when? The Tiwanaku culture, centered not far from the lake's southern shores, is known for its sophisticated architecture, advanced agricultural systems, and enigmatic monuments, such as the Gate of the Sun, whose massive stones remain a marvel of ancient engineering. Yet, even for them, constructing vast structures beneath a lake seems improbable. If the ruins truly predate Tiwanaku, then they might belong to a culture even more ancient, one that thrived before recorded history and was lost when the waters rose. But how did those waters rise? Some scientists point to geological evidence suggesting that Lake Titicaca's water level has fluctuated dramatically over the millennia, possibly due to tectonic activity or climate shifts following the end of the last ice age. Entire shorelines may have been submerged as the landscape changed, drowning villages and ceremonial centers beneath the surface. In that case, what lies below could simply be the remnants of settlements swallowed by nature's slow hand. Others, however, are not so sure. Local legends speak of a time when the gods punished humankind, unleashing a great flood that destroyed an earlier world. Could these submerged ruins be the remnants of that world, echoes of a forgotten cataclysm remembered in myth? Some researchers even draw comparisons to stories of other sunken lands, Atlantis or the submerged temples of India's coastal cities, suggesting a global pattern of civilizations lost to rising waters long before history began. It is a notion dismissed by mainstream archaeology, yet its allure persists, fueled by the mystery of what remains unseen beneath the waves. Modern technology has offered tantalizing glimpses, but no definitive answers. The murky depths of Lake Titicaca are difficult to penetrate. Visibility is low, and the cold, high-altitude environment poses challenges for divers and equipment alike. Expeditions continue to map the underwater topography, but much of what lies there remains shrouded in silt, as though time itself conspires to keep its secrets. And so, the question lingers. Were these structures temples, villages, or something else entirely? Were they built by ancestors of the Tiwanaku, or by a civilization now erased from history's pages? When the surface of the lake ripples in the wind, it's easy to imagine those ancient stones just below, silent, motionless, waiting. Perhaps they once stood in sunlight, surrounded by the sounds of life and worship. Perhaps the waters rose slowly, swallowing the past until it vanished beneath a mirror of blue. Today, fishermen still tell stories of strange shapes glimpsed beneath the waves, of lights that move where no one dares to dive. Scientists call it optical illusion, reflection, refraction, or shadow. But to those who live on its shores, Lake Titicaca remains alive, watching, remembering. Could the ruins below hold clues to the earliest chapters of human civilization in South America? Or are they simply reminders of how fragile all human endeavor is? How easily a city, a people, a history can be lost beneath the shifting face of the earth? Beneath the silent waters, time sleeps, its secrets sealed by depth and darkness. And until we dare to lift the veil that lies beneath Lake Titicaca's shimmering surface, we can only wonder what memories the lake still guards in its cold and sacred heart. From the silent waters of Lake Titicaca, where submerged ruins hint at civilizations lost to time, our journey turns once more to the arid valleys of coastal Peru. Here, in a landscape of rolling sand dunes and dry riverbeds, lies a place that predates even the mighty empires of the Andes, a city forgotten by history, yet astonishing in its scope and sophistication. This is Caral, home to some of the oldest known pyramids in the Americas. The first view of Caral is both humbling and surreal. Rising from the pale earth are 6 monumental pyramidal structures, their stepped forms casting long shadows across the surrounding valley. Terraces, plazas, and sunken amphitheaters stretch between them, arranged with deliberate precision. Unlike the stone temples of Egypt or the monumental works of Mesopotamia, Caral is constructed primarily of sun-dried mud bricks, a testament to ingenuity rather than brute force. It is a city that flourished more than 4,500 years ago, around 2600 BC, yet it remained hidden in plain sight for millennia, its story largely unknown until the late 20th century. Caral is remarkable not merely for its age, but for the sophistication of its urban design. Archaeologists have uncovered plazas likely used for ritual gatherings, residential complexes indicating social stratification, and an extensive network of irrigation channels that transformed the arid land into fertile farmland. Flutes and other musical instruments found alongside quipu-like knotted chords suggest a culture rich in ceremony, communication, and artistry. And yet, there are no signs of warfare, no fortifications, no weapons, no evidence of violent conquest. It seems to have been a society dedicated to creation, trade, and spiritual practice. Despite these insights, questions multiply as we examine the site more closely. Caral's pyramids rise with a precision that would be impressive even for later civilizations with more advanced tools. How did a people, so ancient and without metal instruments, achieve such uniformity in their construction? The alignment of the pyramids with the solstices suggests astronomical knowledge far beyond what might be expected for the era. Was this deliberate, a conscious attempt to track the cycles of the sun and stars, or an inherited tradition whose origins are already lost? Even more mysterious is the absence of evidence linking Caral to contemporaneous civilizations in other regions. While Egypt and Mesopotamia were developing monumental architecture and writing around the same period, Caral appears entirely self-contained. It is not clear whether this society arose independently, or if knowledge somehow traveled across oceans and deserts in ways that remain unimaginable today. Could there have been a network of early civilizations now vanished, whose connections are hidden beneath layers of earth and time? The question of purpose also lingers. Were these pyramids primarily ceremonial centers, hubs for trade, or sacred spaces for spiritual practice? The sheer scale of labor required to construct them suggests that the society placed immense value on communal effort, yet the precise motivations remain elusive. Why invest so much energy in structures whose functions defy easy interpretation? Some researchers speculate that Caral may have been a model for subsequent Andean civilizations, the Inca and their predecessors. But the evidence is fragmentary. Unlike later cultures, Caral shows no signs of writing as we recognize it, leaving their beliefs and governance a mystery. How did they communicate complex social, religious, or technological knowledge without written records? And yet, as one walks among the sun-baked terraces, feeling the weight of millennia underfoot, there is a quiet clarity in the mystery itself. Caral speaks without words, a city that insists we pay attention to the ingenuity of human beings even in eras we have long assumed were primitive. Its pyramids, standing resolute against time, ask us to reconsider what we know about the origins of civilization in the Americas. Could Caral represent the very first blueprint for complex society in this hemisphere? A society that understood urban planning, agriculture, astronomy, and ceremony long before the rise of more famous empires? Or are there even older truths buried beneath the sands, waiting for discovery? As the sun sets over the Soup Valley, casting golden light across the terraces and plazas, Caral remains a silent witness to human achievement. The city invites reflection, demanding that we wonder not just how it was built, but what other civilizations, like it, may still lie forgotten, hidden beneath the earth, waiting for their story to be told. From the sun-scorched sands of coastal Peru, where Corral's pyramids rise in silent testament to human ingenuity, our journey now arcs back across continents and millennia to the harsh deserts of southern Egypt. Here, amid the undulating dunes of the Nubian frontier, lies a site that predates even the earliest dynasties of the Nile, a place where stone and sky converge in ways that continue to perplex archaeologists. Nabta Playa. At first glance, the landscape appears unremarkable. Flat expanses of desert, dotted with seasonal water basins that fill briefly during the monsoon rains. Yet, beneath this seemingly barren terrain lies one of the most enigmatic megalithic complexes ever discovered in Africa. Carved and arranged with deliberate precision, these stones, some reaching several meters in height, form circles, alignments, and even what appears to be an early astronomical calendar. The history of Nabta Playa stretches back more than 7,000 years, into a time when the Sahara was far greener than it is today, dotted with lakes, rivers, and grazing herds. Hunter-gatherer communities thrived here, leaving behind evidence of ritual activity, including burial sites and ceremonial stone arrangements. Among these, one of the most striking discoveries is a circle of massive megaliths, carefully placed in patterns that some researchers suggest mark the rising of the summer solstice. Could these stones represent the earliest known attempt at astronomical observation in human history? The site's complexity is astonishing. Excavations have revealed hearths, sacrificial pits, and burial sites where offerings were placed alongside the dead. Archaeologists have uncovered meticulously shaped stones, aligned not by chance, but with a sophistication that suggests both planning and knowledge of celestial cycles. How did these early desert peoples, without metal tools or written records, achieve such precision? What knowledge guided them as they positioned these enormous stones, some weighing several tons, across the shifting sands? Mainstream explanations suggest that Nabta Playa represents a ceremonial center for nomadic communities, tied to seasonal water availability and religious observances. It may have been a site to honor ancestors, track time, or coordinate migrations and herding practices. The alignment of stones with astronomical events could have helped them predict seasonal changes crucial for survival. Yet even with these practical interpretations, many questions remain. The precision of the astronomical alignments seems extraordinary for such an early culture, raising the possibility that these people possessed knowledge lost to us, an understanding of the heavens far beyond what we might expect for 5,000 or even 6,000 BC. Some researchers speculate that Nabta Playa may have served as a precursor to the monumental architecture of later Egypt. Could these megaliths have inspired the builders of the pyramids, planting the seeds of sacred geometry and ritualized space that would define the Nile Valley for millennia? Others venture further, suggesting that the site's alignment to the stars hints at connections to ancient myths, perhaps even to ideas shared across continents in ways we have yet to understand. Adding to the intrigue is the discovery of carved stone thrones and altar-like structures, suggesting ceremonial practices that remain mysterious to this day. Were these used to honor the dead, to commune with deities, or to mark cosmic events? And what of the buried cattle figurines and evidence of early cattle domestication? Was this a sacred herd, a symbolic act linking life, death, and the cycles of the sky? Despite decades of study, Nabta Playa continues to withhold its secrets. Its megaliths endure through scorching winds and shifting sands, their purpose partially hidden by the passage of thousands of years. Even the most careful surveys leave gaps in our understanding. The exact methods used to move and erect the stones, the full scope of rituals conducted here, and the broader societal structures of the people who built them remain tantalizingly obscure. And yet, standing amid the ancient stones, one can feel a connection across time. The desert is silent now, but once it was alive with the footsteps, chants, and rituals of those who first marked the cycles of the sun and stars. The megaliths, immovable and resolute, seem to ask the same questions that have haunted every generation since. How did these early peoples conceive such grand designs? What drove them to labor with such care in a landscape so unforgiving? And what knowledge, now lost, guided their hands and hearts as they placed stone to sky? Nabta Playa endures as a monument to human curiosity, ingenuity, and the urge to reach beyond the ordinary. It challenges our assumptions about the dawn of civilization in Africa, hinting at an intelligence both practical and spiritual, ancient yet eerily sophisticated. And as the desert winds ripple across the megaliths, carrying with them the echoes of long-vanished rituals, one is left to wonder how much of our past lies hidden, waiting beneath the sands, its story still untold. From the sun-baked deserts of southern Egypt, where Nabta Playa's megaliths whisper of ancient astronomers and desert rituals, our journey now turns across continents to the dense jungles of central Mexico. Hidden within the ceremonial heart of Teotihuacan lies a structure that continues to baffle archaeologists and explorers alike. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, or Quetzalcoatl, renowned not only for its carved stone faces and serpentine motifs, but for a discovery that seems almost alchemical in its strangeness: vast pools of liquid mercury beneath its foundations. The first encounter with the temple is a study in contrasts. From the outside, it rises with geometric precision, stepped tiers ascending skyward, adorned with sculpted heads of the feathered serpent, each curling into the rhythm of an ancient mythology. The plaza stretches wide, flanked by the Avenue of the Dead, where pyramids, platforms, and residential complexes converge in a vast ceremonial network. It is a city built for the gods, or at least for humans who sought to reach them. Yet it is beneath the temple's stones that the truly extraordinary secret lies. In 2003, archaeologists exploring tunnels and chambers hidden under the pyramid discovered something entirely unexpected. Thousands of liters of mercury, stored in subterranean pools, concealed beneath the temple's foundations and extending into the surrounding corridors. The pools shimmered, reflecting the faint light of the explorers' torches, a liquid mirror that had lain undisturbed for more than a millennium. Mercury, elemental, toxic, and mysterious, was known to the civilizations of the Americas, but rarely in such quantity or such placement. How and why had it been transported here, from distant mineral sources, in amounts sufficient to fill vast underground basins? And what purpose could it have served? Some researchers suggest the mercury functioned as a symbolic representation of water, a mirror of the underworld, or an attempt to connect the temple with celestial or subterranean realms. In Mesoamerican cosmology, water and precious metals were intimately tied to life, death, and divine authority. Could the mercury have been intended to reflect the heavens, to create a portal of light beneath the temple, or to serve as a conduit for ritual energy? Others wonder if there was a more practical purpose. Was it an early form of engineering, perhaps a fluid barrier designed to protect sacred chambers from intrusion? Or was it a method of alchemical experimentation, a practice lost to time and comprehension, linking the physical with the spiritual? The presence of mercury beneath a site so significant raises even deeper questions about Teotihuacan itself. The city's origins remain enigmatic, its rulers are unknown, and its culture, while monumental in architecture and organization, left no decipherable written records. The discovery of mercury seems to suggest knowledge and intent far beyond the obvious. Metallurgical skill capable of mining, transporting, and carefully storing a volatile substance. Ritual precision in placing it beneath one of the most sacred structures in the city. And perhaps a belief system sophisticated enough to integrate symbolism, cosmology, and material science into a single, hidden design. mainstream explanations caution against overinterpretation, noting that ritual deposits of valuable or rare materials were common in Mesoamerican ceremonial centers. Yet even with this perspective, the sheer scale of the mercury pools is unprecedented, unmatched by any other site in the Americas. It implies a purpose so significant that the effort of procuring and concealing it would have been extraordinary, a labor of devotion, secrecy, or both. Even more intriguing is the alignment of the mercury pools with the tunnels and burial chambers beneath the temple. The pools seem to trace the path of ceremonial shafts, echoing the positions of figurines and sacrificial deposits. Were they intended to amplify ritual acts, or to sanctify those who entered the subterranean passages? Could they have been part of a ritual designed to invoke the feathered serpent itself, whose dual nature as earthly and divine is central to Mesoamerican belief? As archaeologists continue to map the labyrinth beneath the temple, many of the pools remain unexplored, their depths and extents unknown. The liquid mercury endures in silence, a reflective surface untouched by centuries, preserving a mystery that refuses to yield its full meaning. Standing above the subterranean pools, one cannot help but feel the weight of intention across time, the deliberate placement of a dangerous, precious substance, hidden from the eyes of the world beneath a city built for gods yet governed by humans whose names we will never know. What message were the builders attempting to convey? Was it a bridge between earth and underworld, a symbol of power, or a testament to knowledge now lost? Perhaps the pools of mercury, like the tunnels themselves, are reminders that some truths are meant to be hidden, waiting patiently for those who dare to descend into the shadows. And so, beneath the sunlit terraces of Teotihuacan, the liquid mercury continues to gleam, silent and unyielding, a mirror to a civilization's ingenuity, its beliefs, and the enduring enigma of human ambition. How much more of Teotihuacan, and of human history itself, remains submerged beneath the layers of earth, stone, and secrecy, waiting for us to uncover it? From the dense underground chambers and ceremonial secrets of Teotihuacan, where mercury pools shimmer beneath the temple of the feathered serpent, our journey now crosses continents once again, back to the cradle of civilization along the fertile plains of Mesopotamia. Here, amidst the arid expanses of southern Iraq, lie the ruins of one of the earliest known cultures of the ancient Near East, the Ubaid civilization. And yet, amid its well-documented settlements and temples, there exist artifacts so enigmatic that they continue to challenge our understanding of human imagination and craftsmanship. The so-called Ubaid lizard figurines. At first glance, these small clay objects appear simple: elongated bodies, angular limbs, and protruding features that suggest reptilian forms. Yet, upon closer inspection, their execution is meticulous. Each figurine is carved or molded with precision, displaying details that hint at observation and intent far beyond ordinary artistic expression. Some possess a humanoid quality, with upright posture or elongated torsos, while others are unmistakably lizard-like, as if capturing the essence of creatures that slithered across the marshes and canals of the Ubaid heartland. Dating from roughly 5000 to 4000 BC, these figurines were found in temple precincts and residential structures, often in association with altars, ceremonial deposits, or clay tokens whose purposes remain opaque. Their small size belies their complexity. Many show articulation of limbs, segmented bodies, and even signs of pigmentation, traces of which suggest they may have once been vividly painted. Yet, remarkably, there is no record in Ubaid iconography of any mythology explicitly linking humans and lizards, leaving us to wonder what significance these creatures might have held. Scholars have proposed several explanations. Some suggest the figurines were mere toys, practice objects for novice artisans, or symbolic representations of local fauna. Others, noting their frequent placement in ritual contexts, argue that they served as talismans, mediating between humans and the unseen forces of the natural world. Lizard symbolism, after all, appears in other cultures as a sign of regeneration, agility, or protection. Could the Ubaid people have attributed similar qualities to these creatures, embedding them in ceremonies designed to ensure fertility, harvest, or safe passage through the watery landscapes of their marshy settlements? Yet questions deepen when we consider the more unusual features of some figurines. A number display forms that are neither wholly reptilian nor entirely human, merging elements of both. Limbs bend in unnatural ways, eyes bulge unnervingly, and some appear to carry what could be interpreted as tools or ceremonial implements. Were these imaginative depictions of mythological beings intermediaries between humans and gods? Or do they represent an early attempt at symbolic abstraction, a coded language of religious or social meaning lost to the millennia? The geographical spread of these figurines is equally mysterious. While centered in southern Mesopotamia, similar lizard-like artifacts have been reported at distant Ubaid-influenced settlements, suggesting the motif traveled widely, either through trade, migration, or the transmission of ritual practice. Yet why this specific form? Why lizards, rather than birds, fish, or other local animals more prominent in the environment? The recurrence of this motif across sites hints at a shared cultural or spiritual significance, one that remains frustratingly opaque. Even the materials raise questions. Crafted from local clays and fired with care, the figurines' durability allowed many to survive millennia of shifting riverbeds and settlement collapse. Some exhibit traces of pigments, implying intentional decoration, while others bear incised patterns or markings that may have encoded meaning now indecipherable. Were these marks functional, decorative, or symbolic? Did they record lineage, ritual function, or cosmic knowledge? As we examine them today, the Ubaid lizard figurines exert a subtle, almost hypnotic fascination. They are small, quiet, yet insist upon attention, demanding contemplation of the lives and beliefs of a people who left no written record of their inner worlds. They invite us to imagine a landscape of reed-filled canals, where humans observed creatures of the earth and water with reverence, curiosity, and perhaps a sense of awe. Could these figurines represent a lost dimension of Ubaid spirituality, a connection to creatures that symbolized survival, protection, or the very rhythm of life in marshlands? Or were they part of a broader, now vanished system of myth and ritual, one whose meanings we may never fully recover? As we hold these objects in mind, we confront the limitations of interpretation. Time has eroded context, and yet, in their silent forms, these lizard figures continue to communicate across millennia. They are reminders of the imagination, belief, and ingenuity of early humans, hinting at complex spiritual worlds hidden within the earliest urban settlements of Mesopotamia. And as the desert winds sweep across the ruins of ancient temples and canals, one cannot help but wonder, how many more symbols, forms, or motifs remain buried in forgotten layers of the past, awaiting the eyes and minds ready to decipher their mysteries? From the enigmatic clay lizards of Ubaid Mesopotamia, where small figurines hint at a lost spiritual world, our journey now leads us northward, across vast plains and rugged mountain ranges, to the shadowed valleys of the North Caucasus. Here, amidst steep ridges and hidden plateaus, stand the dolmens of the North Caucasus, stone monuments that have silently witnessed the passage of millennia, their origins and purposes still shrouded in mystery. At first glance, these dolmens resemble simple megalithic tombs, large, flat stones carefully stacked to form chambers, with massive capstones spanning the top. Yet as one approaches, it becomes clear that their construction is anything but ordinary. Some weigh several tons, yet they have been transported and elevated with precision, often perched on rocky terraces or isolated hills. Many feature narrow entrance corridors, intricate interior layouts, and in some cases, small holes cut into the stone, whose function remains unexplained. The sheer effort required to build these structures, without metal tools or the mechanical advantages available to later civilizations, speaks to a sophistication and intent that continues to astonish modern researchers. Dating remains imprecise, with estimates ranging from 3000 to 1000 BC. Yet even the youngest of these structures belong to a period when complex societies were just beginning to emerge in the surrounding regions. Archaeological surveys reveal remnants of human remains, pottery fragments, and occasional metal objects within some dolmens, suggesting ritual or funerary use. Yet the pattern is inconsistent. Many dolmens contain no remains at all, leaving their function ambiguous. Were they tombs, ceremonial sites, markers of territory, or something else entirely? What sets the North Caucasus dolmens apart from other megalithic traditions is their variety and enigmatic geometry. Some are rectangular, others polygonal, and a number appear almost triangular or trapezoidal. Interior stones are sometimes arranged to form benches or niches, while some capstones feature deliberate carvings or cup-like depressions whose significance is unknown. Scholars have debated whether these features were functional, symbolic, or even astronomical. Could these structures have been aligned to celestial events, tracking solstices or lunar cycles in a landscape where the sun rises and sets dramatically over jagged peaks? Local legends add another layer of intrigue. Many of the dolmens are said to be inhabited by spirits or guardians, places where the living should tread carefully. Stories speak of ancient rites performed in the shadows of the stones, ceremonies to honor ancestors, or rituals meant to harness hidden energies within the mountains. While folklore cannot be treated as historical evidence, it suggests that these monuments have held a powerful, almost otherworldly presence in human consciousness for centuries. Some researchers propose that the dolmens served as a means of preserving knowledge, architectural, astronomical, or spiritual. The engineering required to move multi-ton stones and construct precise chambers implies not only technical skill, but planning, coordination, and possibly a shared cultural or religious purpose across distant communities. Could these stones encode information about trade routes, territorial boundaries, or even cosmological principles, their messages now hidden beneath millennia of silence? Speculative theories have flourished, fueled by the dolmen's remote locations and the difficulty of excavation. Some suggest they were ancient observatories, designed to channel or focus energy, or to act as portals between earthly and spiritual realms. Others argue that their precise geometry, repetitive forms, and occasional carvings indicate knowledge of mathematics or surveying techniques that we might consider advanced for their time. While such ideas remain debated, they underscore the aura of mystery that surrounds these megaliths, a mystery that has drawn explorers, archaeologists, and even esoteric researchers alike. As we walk among the stones today, their silent presence evokes both awe and unease. The mountains loom overhead, winds whisper through the narrow gaps between capstones, and shadows lengthen across terraces worn smooth by centuries of weather. One cannot help but wonder, who were the people who labored here, shaping massive stones with hands and tools long vanished into history? What compelled them to place these monuments in such remote, precarious positions, sometimes isolated from settlements, yet resonant with deliberate design? The dolmens endure, their purpose partly revealed but mostly obscured, standing as both markers of human ingenuity and enigmas of our collective past. They remind us that even in the earliest chapters of human history, people sought to leave something behind that transcended the ordinary, structures that connected the living with the dead, the earthly with the celestial, and the known with the unknowable. And so, amid the rugged peaks and hidden valleys of the North Caucasus, the dolmens continue to watch over the land, silent and unyielding. What secrets lie within their stone walls, and how much more might we uncover if we dare to look deeper into the shadows of prehistory? From the rugged mountains and hidden dolmens of the North Caucasus, where massive stones guard secrets of millennia past, our exploration now turns southeast, across oceans and continents, to the lush volcanic highlands of western Java, Indonesia. Here rises Gunung Padang, a megalithic site whose terraced stone platforms have long been admired for their grandeur, but beneath its surface, a far deeper mystery quietly awaits. At first glance, Gunung Padang appears as a monumental terraced hill, its uppermost layers composed of roughly hewn volcanic stones arranged in geometric patterns. Wide steps ascend the hill like a natural staircase, each terrace meticulously leveled and framed by stone retaining walls. From a distance, the site exudes a serene symmetry, a seemingly natural hill transformed by human hands into something extraordinary, yet wholly integrated with the surrounding landscape. Archaeologists have long recognized it as one of Southeast Asia's most impressive megalithic complexes, traditionally dated to between 500 BC and 1500 BC, though recent studies suggest the story may stretch far deeper into prehistory. It is the hidden depths of Gunung Padang that have truly captivated researchers and sparked debate across the globe. Geophysical surveys, including ground-penetrating radar, resistivity studies, and seismic tomography, reveal multiple layers of stonework beneath the visible terraces, extending tens of meters below the surface. These are not mere foundations. They are chambers, corridors, and massive stone blocks arranged in structural patterns that hint at sophisticated engineering. Some suggest the subterranean layers could be as much as 20 to 30 meters deep, forming a labyrinthine network that dwarfs what is visible above. The arrangement of stones in these deeper levels is remarkable. Unlike the roughly hewn terraces above, the buried layers feature tightly packed, interlocking blocks, often rectangular or polygonal in shape, reminiscent of megalithic techniques seen in distant civilizations from the Andes to the Caucasus. The precision is uncanny for a culture traditionally assumed to have relied on simple tools. How were such massive stones cut, transported, and placed with such care thousands of years ago? And why, after investing such effort, did later builders create a seemingly simpler surface above these enigmatic chambers? Some mainstream researchers argue that the deeper layers were natural formations, later modified by human hands, or that the complex evolved gradually over centuries. Yet others point to the meticulous alignment of the stones along grids, the presence of elongated chambers resembling ritual or storage spaces, and the apparent use of specific orientations that might relate to celestial phenomena. Could Gunung Padang have been conceived not merely as a ceremonial hill, but as a monumental record of astronomical knowledge or a sacred site with layers of spiritual significance? Even more mysterious are the dating results of recent carbon analyses conducted on materials embedded between the stones. Some samples suggest that parts of the underlying structures may date back as far as 20,000 years, long before the emergence of known civilizations in the region. If verified, such a timeline challenges conventional understanding of prehistoric societies, suggesting a level of organizational skill, technical knowledge, and social complexity far earlier than previously believed. Who were the builders capable of such engineering, and what drove them to construct this vast subterranean labyrinth? Speculative theories abound. Some propose that the deep chambers served as ritual spaces for ceremonies lost to history, designed to channel spiritual or cosmic energy. Others suggest they were repositories for sacred knowledge, ancestral records, or even an early form of archive or observatory. The interplay of geometry, stone, and subterranean space hints at intentionality that transcends mere practical construction, a vision that is simultaneously architectural, symbolic, and perhaps spiritual. As researchers continue to probe these hidden layers, much remains unexplored. Only portions of the tunnels and chambers have been carefully examined, and even these yield tantalizing glimpses of what may lie further beneath. More interlocking blocks, corridors leading into darkness, and spaces whose purpose remains entirely enigmatic. Standing atop the sunlit terraces of Gunung Padang today, one can feel both awe and humility. The site's silent stones radiate an ancient intelligence, a testament to human ambition and ingenuity that stretches beyond our historical narratives. The terraces above conceal a network below, a mystery that refuses to yield its secrets easily. What lies deeper still, hidden beneath layers of earth, stone, and time? Could the subterranean chambers of Gunung Padang reveal knowledge of human ingenuity lost to millennia, or a form of sacred architecture whose meaning we may never fully grasp? And as the centuries continue to press upon these stones, one is left to wonder, how much of our past remains buried, waiting silently beneath the earth for those willing to seek it out? From the hidden chambers and vast terraces of Gunung Padang, where megaliths conceal secrets beneath layers of earth, our journey now returns westward, across deserts and mountains, to the arid wilderness of the southern Arabian Peninsula. Here lie the legendary copper mines of King Solomon, a site that has captivated explorers, archaeologists, and treasure hunters for centuries. Shrouded in history, legend, and tantalizing hints of ancient metallurgy, these mines remain one of the enduring enigmas of the ancient Near East. The landscape itself is stark yet commanding. Rugged cliffs of red and ochre rise from the desert floor, their surfaces scarred by ancient tunnels, pits, and shafts that descend into shadowy depths. The heat of the sun bakes the rock, and the wind whispers through narrow crevices, carrying a sense of timelessness. It is difficult to imagine the human effort required to carve these tunnels thousands of years ago, to extract ore from unforgiving stone without modern tools, while transporting it across deserts to distant cities. And yet, archaeological evidence suggests that copper was mined here extensively, perhaps as far back as 3000 BC, with activity peaking in the first millennium BC. The mines are often associated with the biblical King Solomon, whose wealth and building projects were legendary. Ancient texts speak of vast quantities of copper used in the construction of the temple, monumental gates, and intricate artifacts. Could these remote mines in the southern deserts of what is now the region near modern-day Jordan and Saudi Arabia be the source of that wealth? Excavations have uncovered remnants of ancient mining techniques. Tunnels reinforced with stone, slag heaps indicating smelting, and rudimentary tools carved from wood and stone. Yet despite these finds, the precise scale, organization, and methods of extraction remain largely speculative. Some researchers propose that these mines were not merely practical endeavors, but part of a sophisticated trade network that extended across the Near East. The copper extracted here could have fueled economies from Mesopotamia to Egypt, connecting disparate cultures through a shared demand for metal. Evidence of ancient roads, caravan routes, and way stations lends some weight to this theory, yet the sheer isolation and harshness of the terrain beg the question: how were large-scale operations sustained in such a remote environment? Were entire communities dedicated to mining here, living in the desert under extreme conditions, or did itinerant workers move seasonally between extraction sites and urban centers? The more speculative and intriguing theories arise when considering the legends surrounding King Solomon himself. Some suggest that the mines were guarded not only physically but symbolically, considered sacred spaces infused with ritual significance. Copper, a metal with practical and symbolic value, may have represented power, wealth, and divine favor, transforming mining into an act that blended industry, devotion, and statecraft. Could tunnels and shafts have been designed with hidden chambers or secret caches, intended to store not only metal but sacred knowledge, ceremonial objects, or treasures yet undiscovered? Archaeologists have uncovered tantalizing hints that some sections of the mines were expanded in ways that suggest knowledge of ventilation, structural reinforcement, and even water management, techniques advanced for their presumed era. Could these indicate a level of engineering sophistication greater than traditionally attributed to early kingdoms in the region? And if so, what does that imply about the organization, labor, and technological understanding of these ancient societies? Local folklore adds another layer of mystery. Stories speak of hidden tunnels extending far beyond the known mining complexes, leading to secret chambers filled with treasures and guarded by traps, or disappearing into the surrounding mountains, never to be rediscovered. While these tales cannot be verified, they underscore the enduring fascination and mythic aura surrounding the mines, where history and legend intertwine so tightly that separating fact from story becomes nearly impossible. Walking today among the weathered tunnels, the slag-strewn terraces, and the ancient excavation pits, one cannot help but feel the weight of time and human endeavor. These mines are silent witnesses to centuries of labor, ambition, and perhaps devotion, yet they reveal only glimpses of their full story. How much wealth and knowledge remain hidden in the depths of these desert mines, waiting for the right eye to uncover them? Were these tunnels simply industrial operations, or did they serve as secret repositories of power and ritual, echoing the grandeur of a legendary king? The copper mines of King Solomon continue to challenge our understanding, standing as a testament to human ingenuity, perseverance, and the enduring allure of mysteries that lie just beneath the surface. From the remote copper mines of King Solomon, where tunnels carved into desert rock whisper of wealth, ritual, and lost engineering, our journey now turns to the rolling hills of southeastern Europe, to a landscape that seems at first glance entirely ordinary. Near the town of Visoko in Bosnia, a series of low, forested hills rise gently above the river valley. Among them, a mystery has captured global attention: the so-called Pyramids of Visoko, structures that some claim may represent Europe's own ancient, monumental pyramids, hidden in plain sight. The largest, known as the Pyramid of the Sun, towers over the surrounding terrain with a near-perfect triangular profile. From certain vantage points, the slopes appear unnaturally straight, the angles remarkably precise, and the terraces carefully stepped, evoking comparisons to the pyramids of Egypt or Mesoamerica. Surrounding it are smaller formations: the Pyramid of the Moon, the Pyramid of the Dragon, and a network of stone terraces, tunnels, and mounds that together form a complex that defies easy classification. Is this the result of natural geomorphology shaped by millennia of erosion? Or could human hands have played a role in sculpting these forms into deliberate, monumental architecture? The history of investigation here is complex. Archaeologist Semir Osmanagic has led excavations suggesting that the hills may contain artificial stone layers, interspersed with concrete-like material, and a network of subterranean tunnels that could link the pyramids. Proponents argue that the tunnels, some carved with remarkable precision and containing unusual structural features, indicate a purpose beyond mere geology, hinting at ceremonial or perhaps astronomical intent. Critics caution that many of the findings could result from natural processes, urging rigorous scientific verification. Yet the site continues to provoke debate precisely because it sits at the intersection of tangible evidence and unanswered questions. What makes the Visoko pyramids especially compelling is their alignment. Some researchers point to their positioning along cardinal points, suggesting knowledge of astronomy or surveying that would have been extraordinary for a society previously assumed to be Neolithic or Bronze Age in the region. Could these hills have been deliberately oriented to the sun, the moon, or even specific stars, serving as markers for agricultural, religious, or ritual cycles? The notion that early Europeans could have produced large-scale stone structures of such sophistication raises profound questions about the development of civilization in this part of the continent. Excavations have revealed layers of stone blocks and terraces, some covered with soil and vegetation, that may have been arranged rather than randomly deposited. Within the tunnels, traces of human activity, tools, carvings, and chambers hint at an intentional subterranean complex. These passages, winding through the hills like veins of a hidden city, create a labyrinthine network whose purpose remains obscure. Were they used for ritual, burial, storage, or perhaps as a means to harness and focus energy in a way we no longer fully understand? Speculation inevitably rises alongside the tangible findings. Some suggest that the pyramids of Visoko are far older than mainstream archaeology currently acknowledges, potentially dating back thousands of years before recorded European history. Could these hills preserve knowledge of an advanced prehistoric culture, whose engineering, cosmology, or ritual practices have been lost to time? The very possibility challenges assumptions about the origins of monumental construction, inviting us to reconsider the capacities of societies long thought to be simple or rudimentary. Natural explanations are equally compelling. Skeptics argue that the shapes result from unique geological processes, including tectonic uplift and erosion patterns, that happen to produce symmetrical and triangular features. Indeed, the hills contain layers of conglomerate and sandstone, materials that could fracture and weather in ways that mimic human design. Yet, even those most cautious about attributing human handiwork acknowledge the enigma posed by the tunnels, terraces, and straight lines, elements that seem unlikely to occur entirely by chance. Local legends and folklore add another layer to the mystery. Stories speak of hidden chambers, sacred spaces, and ancient guardians, and the hills have long been sites of reverence and pilgrimage. In this blending of history, myth, and speculation, the pyramids of Visoko occupy a liminal space, at once a natural formation, a potential monument, and a symbol of the enduring human fascination with hidden knowledge and lost civilizations. Standing today at the base of the Pyramid of the Sun, looking upward along its steep slopes, one cannot help but sense a profound ambiguity. The forested terraces, the winding tunnels, and the occasional glimpse of stonework beneath the soil evoke awe, curiosity, and a hint of disquiet. Are we witnessing the remnants of an ancient, forgotten culture, a prehistoric architectural marvel, or simply a remarkable trick of geology? The pyramids of Visoko challenge our understanding of what is possible in prehistory. They remind us that Europe, often seen as thoroughly mapped and studied, may still harbor landscapes that test the limits of archaeology and human imagination. As shadows lengthen across the hills and wind stirs the leaves of the valley, the question remains: what secrets lie buried within these enigmatic formations, waiting for those who dare to explore the boundary between the natural and the extraordinary?